Good morning, Hillary.
Good morning.
Have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning to all of the newcomers that just came in. Feel free to do a mic check if you like.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can, Rob.
Okay, thank you.
This is Jay Logan, mic check.
I can sure hear you, Jay Logan. Have a great meeting.
Thank you so much.
Lyndon Berry, mic check, please.
I can hear you loud and clear, Lyndon.
Great, thank you.
May I have your attention, please? We are now live on the internet. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Duffy Price calling, Commissioner with Los Altos Hills County Fire District, checking in for mic check.
Good morning. I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
This is Greg Beverland doing a mic check.
Good morning, Greg. I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
could you hear me? This is the Vietnamese interpreter.
Good morning. We can hear you, but your volume is a little bit light.
Yeah, I will have a hand up volume. Could you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Could the caller with the phone number ending in 191 please identify yourself?
Hello, I just want to check if it's okay, my audio.
Good morning, Council General. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rhonda. This is Elizabeth Pianca. I think you had asked the number ending in 8191. That's my number.
I sure did, Elizabeth. I will change your name.
Thank you.
Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Have a great meeting. Good morning, Rosario. Would you like to do a mic check?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me well?
We can hear you well. Thank you for joining us as our interpreter.
Perfect, thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor Wasserman.
Morning, Rhonda.
I just want to call you Supervisor Sunshine. You're always such a bright, shining force.
Oh, it must be the lights or something.
It's Muhammad looking over you.
Definitely not the lights.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Supervisor Ellenberg.
Good morning, Supervisor Wasserman. I like Supervisor Sunshine. Rhonda may have started something.
Uh-oh. Although I admit I'm feeling great today. How about all of you? Everybody else doing okay?
It's going to be an awesome day.
Wonderful.
Rhonda, this is Supervisor Joseph.
Good morning, Supervisor Semidian.
Rhonda, I've been having a little trouble, I'm told, with the microphone on my computer, and I just want to check. Are you getting me loud and clear as I sit in this position this close to the screen?
I sure am,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, Mike. I was going to say Rhonda's voice got deep in a hurry, but thank you for both. Thanks.
I can talk deeper if you like.
There you go. Much appreciated.
Mighty handsome, Supervisor Semidian.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Supervisor Chavez.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if our colleagues are on, if we could begin our meeting. Just checking.
You are missing one supervisor. You do have 4.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Just a message from the clerk's office, because we do have over 80 panelists today. We do ask that people keep your cameras off unless you are a supervisor or specifically speaking on the item that is being presented at the time. Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to call our meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the clerk if you could make a roll call vote, please. I'm going to take our roll call.
Supervisor Allenberg,
I'm here.
Supervisor Semidian,
Semidian here.
Supervisor Cortese, Supervisor Cortese.
He's here.
I'm here.
Thank you. Vice President Wasserman,
Here.
President Chavez.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask if Mike Wasserman will lead us in the pledge. Please stand if you're able.
Thank you, Madam President. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are now going to turn for our invocation to Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you very much, Madam President. My invocation today, it's my honor to introduce Rhea Baines, who's a junior at Dr. T.J. Owens Gilroy Early College Academy and represents District 1 as a commissioner on the Santa Clara County Youth Task Force. Rhea is president of a cultural dance club at her school and enjoys martial arts, participating in the Red Cross Club, and serving her community. In honor of National Be Nice Day, which was yesterday, Rhea will be reciting A Simple Act of Kindness, a poem by David Harris. Let's give it up for Rhea.
Good morning, everyone. So as Supervisor Wasserman said, the poem I'll be reading is A Simple Act of Kindness by David Harris. A simple act of kindness can stop a million tears. A little hug can give so much joy. A letter now and then to someone can save so many wasted years. We should hold every moment precious and help as many as we can with a simple act of kindness every now and then. The world would be a better place if we all cared a little more. Imagine how many smiling faces would greet us at the door if we extended that helping hand with a simple act of kindness that could spread across many lands. Now, what does this mean? Well, in our world today, it is more important now than ever to be kind to one another. We are currently navigating tough times, and it's crucial that we maintain compassion for one another, because we cannot ever truly know what someone else is going through. Being kind to someone would mean that you're giving them the gift of understanding. It means that you are taking the time out of your day to be there for them. Not only this, but it allows you to feel better as well, since giving is often more emotionally rewarding than receiving. Being kind does not have to be an extraordinary act, but rather it can simply be an everyday task. You can be kind by letting someone else with less items go in front of you in the grocery store line. You could offer to talk to someone who you know is going through a hard time, or you can donate items that you no longer use to the needy. By participating in these acts of kindness and simply being nice to other people, you can make a difference in the community and in someone else's life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ria. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Wasserman. And Ria, thank you very much. That is a really good way to start our day. I'm going to alert folks that we are going to have adjournments. We're going to do a commendation, and then we'll go to public comment. Public comment is item 6. If you'd like to speak on public comment, now would be the time to start raising your hand. I will let folks know that public comment is for items that are not on the agenda today. We will, so for those of you who are signing up to speak, once we get to an hour's worth of public comment, all other public comment will go to the end of the meeting. If you speak to an item under public comment that is already on the agenda, we will not be inviting you to speak when that agenda item comes up. So with that, I'm going to go to our adjournments. So today I have 2 adjournments. And first is to adjourn in honor and memory of Deputy Sheriff Jack Michael Solario, who we lost on August 27th. Deputy Solario was born on June 26, 1951 in Santa Maria, California. At the age of 10, he moved to West San Jose and later graduated from Prospect High School. After high school, he proudly served 24 years in the United States Army, serving 3 tours, and was honorably discharged, holding the rank of Master Sergeant. Deputy Solario's passion was serving his community. In January of 2000, he joined the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office as a Sheriff's Correctional Officer Cadet. In July of 2001, he became a Deputy Sheriff. During his career, Deputy Solario received numerous letters of appreciation and gratitude of his service and professionalism in representing the Sheriff's Office. Deputy Solario was immensely proud of his service in the military and the Sheriff's Office, but the thing that he was most proud of in his life was his family. He took every opportunity to spend time with them. If it was coaching his girls' soccer team, spending time in Santa Cruz on a Friday night, or taking a family road trip, Jack was there. Jack was very proud to wear the uniform to represent the Sheriff's Office, and working as a deputy sheriff was Jack's dream job, and he never intended to leave the agency. June 7th would have been Jack and Bonnie's 48th wedding anniversary. Bonnie, Jody, Sonia, John, and Robert, thank you very much for allowing us to recognize, oh, great, you're here, Bonnie, thank you, recognizing Jack today. I know he was a blessing to our entire community, and he will be missed, and we are very, very sorry for your loss, and we're grateful to letting you share in his honor and his memory.
Thank you. Feel very honored.
Thank you. We're now going to show a close in memoriam for another dear leader in our community. Today we adjourn in the memory of the Honorable Charlotte Elizabeth Bruce Powers, who we lost on September 28, 2020. Charlotte was born October 12, 1937. In 1963, she moved to San Jose from Santa Barbara with her husband and children, becoming a teacher at Cupertino Union High School District, where she met many of her lifelong friends. In the 1970s, thanks to the persistence and exceptional organizing skills of Charlotte and many others, San Jose shifted from a citywide election to district-based elections, improving the opportunities for people of color and women to get elected. From 1992 to 2000, Charlotte represented District 2 on the San Jose City Council. She was a staunch supporter of the arts, affordable housing, workers' rights, and the preservation of the environment. She was an advocate in maintaining open space, managing the city's growth, and deferring the development of Coyote Valley. After the City Council, Charlotte served as a board member to many organizations like San Jose Jazz, San Jose Stage, and Create TV. She was also on the board of the San Jose Dublin Sister City program, where she aimed to build relationships and promote cultural and artistic exchanges. She served as president from 1998 to 2000, and at that time she was honored with the Spirit of Ireland Award. Later, she was honored with the Spirit of Ireland Award in 2016. She'd been the longest serving board member for their program. As she battled Parkinson's disease, Charlotte spent every day of her last years at First Presbyterian Church of San Jose to help women who were unhoused. She was a beloved, generous friend. Her families asked that we thank everybody for the outpouring of love and affection that have been sent in honor of their mother. And I want to say a very special thank you to her family, to Mike and Jenny, Bruce and Michelle, Letitia and Welly, and T.S., who passed away. Her grandchildren, Joshua and Amber, Cassie, Philip, Nick, James, Olivia, Steve, and Avery, and her great-grandchildren, Keela, Presley, Lola, Jack, and Yuki. Thank you very much. And I want to just say to all of you, your mother and grandmother was a trailblazer, and she was certainly one of my personal heroes, and she will be missed. Thank you. With that, we're going to move to item 5, and this is commendations and proclamations. And this one we have today is to honor by National Health Week. So today, I think we're joined by Consul General Melonia from the Mexican Consulate of San Jose and Dr. Sarah Cody, our Public Health Director, to celebrate this momentous occasion. I'm honored to present this proclamation to the Public Health Department, the Mexican Consulate in San Jose, and all of their partners who are doing amazing work in leadership and contributions during Binational Health Week. This effort was created in 2001 with the objective of raising awareness and responding to the unique healthcare challenges of Latinos living in the United States and Canada. Binational Health Week has evolved into one of the largest mobilization efforts in the Americas to improve health and well-being of underserved communities, particularly in the Latino community. Every October, the community, government agencies, and thousands of volunteers come together to host a series of education and health promotion events for Binational Health Week. And I see we have the Consul General and our Dr. Cody, and I'm going to let them say more. I do want to say that Santa Clara County's Public Health Department has administered over the last 15 years 23,000 health screenings through Binational Health Week, which is a tremendous, tremendous outcome. So with that, I will now turn to Dr. Cody and the Consul General Bologna.
Thank you, Supervisor. This is my very favorite week of the year. I always enjoy coming before the board and getting to see our colleagues from the community, and most particularly from the Mexican Consulate. This year, of course, is different. We're doing celebrations virtually and coming together virtually. But I just want to extend my warmest thanks to the Consul and to all of our community partners. This year in particular, we have focused our efforts on reaching out to community partners and residents in East San Jose and in Gilroy to ensure that everyone is receiving the services that they need to best protect themselves, their families, and the community from COVID. So thank you so much, as always.
It is an honor for me to receive on behalf of the Mexican Consulate this proclamation. Thank you so much. I agree, it's the best week of the year. And it is a commitment to continue working together with all of you towards strengthening the solidarity and the friendship links between the consulate and Santa Clara County and the Mexican community. I want to thank especially County of Santa Clara for all the amazing job done during this difficult time of the pandemic, and thank you for your leadership. We have been working for more than 16 years, and in this important event, being healthy is the most precious state in humanity. So we need to help our community, to educate them about the importance of wellness. But at the same time, we need to give them the information they need to have access to all services that could help them to achieve this goal, specifically in these difficult times. We have brave and essential workers day by day in the front line, so let's continue working together to help our community to take care of themselves, to prevent sickness, and to give them knowledge and information as tools of where they can go and what they need to do to keep healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you both very much. You're getting a virtual round of applause, and good luck with the rest of the week's activities. Thank you. So we're now going to move on to public comment. And public comment is to speak to an item that is not on the agenda today. So if you're speaking on an item that is on our agenda, I'll ask that you speak at that time. If you're unable to join us, then we'll ask that you only speak once. And I'm going to ask the clerk to, under the panelists, I have a hand raised under panelists. I'm going to ask the clerk if the clerk can follow up with that individual. What I wanted to just note is that what's on the agenda at as close to time certain as we can get is the fire issues are going to be on at 1, and COVID-19 report back from our staff is scheduled for 4. So if you're wanting to speak on those items and you can join us at that time, that would be most appropriate. We will end public comment after 1 hour of public comment speakers. All other public comment will be invited to participate at the end of the meeting. The other thing I just wanted to say is that the board isn't able to respond to items under public comment. So it really is just a time for us to listen. And I'm going to ask the clerk, if the clerk can call on people 3 at a time so they know they're coming up, and explain intermittently how to make sure that they are able to accept the unmute. So with that, I'm going to go to the staff and ask them if they can begin calling on the public speakers. We're beginning at 9:48. We will end this part of we will suspend this part at 10:48 and then move on to other items on the agenda and come back at the end for the completion of public comment. Thank you.
Our first speaker is Hector Moreno, who will be followed by Westgate Church and Dan Laguna. Hector, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. My name is Hector Moreno. I'm the senior pastor of the home church in Campbell, a church of nearly 300. Before becoming the pastor of THC, I was a deputy district attorney with this county for 10 years. I love Jesus and I love the law in that order. Since I've been pastor, I've come to know not just our congregation, but the pastors and members of many of the other churches in this county. These are wonderful people who are law-abiding and caring. When I was a deputy district attorney, the church community helped me do my job and was one of my best allies. We, the church community, are your best allies in this fight to serve and protect the people of this county. We need to be allowed to safely meet indoors by November 1st and to sing, both of which are constitutionally protected core elements of our faith. Thank you very, very much for all that you're doing.
Next speaker is Westgate Church. You have 1 minute. I have unmuted you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. Timer will begin when you start speaking.
Hi, this is Finney Abraham from Westgate Church. I would like to start today by acknowledging the work done by all supervisors to safely reopen our economy if we reach the orange tier. However, our county guidelines are still not consistent with the state's recommendations regarding indoor dining and indoor gatherings. This discrepancy creates immense confusion for faith leaders and how to communicate with our congregants, and also for our small businesses that are so essential for our community to thrive. I urge you to be consistent with the state guidelines. And finally, I would also like to ask all supervisors to reflect on what Santa Clara County is doing in terms of equity for all First Amendment protected rights in the midst of a pandemic. I think it'll be beneficial for the public to know your stance on this matter and how Santa Clara County is upholding these great values in the midst of the current climate. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Our next speaker is Hector Moreno. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Supervisors, I've already spoken.
That is correct. My apologies. Dan Laguna, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Dan Laguna.
Dan, it appears you've muted yourself. So can we come back to Dan?
Yes. Our next speaker is Eddie Trong. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will begin when you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good morning, President Chavez, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Eddie Trong from the Silicon Valley Organization. We're the region's largest chamber of commerce. I just want to say, before I start my comments, it is incredibly rude to have public comment limited to 1 hour. I have never seen any agency, any government body do this. And in fact, I've seen other labor unions go and talk for much longer than 1 hour, and you are clearly having a bias towards us, and that's just unfair. First off, here are my prepared comments. Thank you to the county officials and to the Board of Supervisors for announcing a revised risk reduction order yesterday that would allow for some indoor religious assembly and some indoor dining once we enter the orange tier. However, we are still far from being 100% in line with the state's guidelines for indoor activities. This is an unnecessary limitation on religious assembly and First Amendment rights, especially when there are health guidelines that we can implement to allow such gatherings to happen safely. Furthermore, indoor dining at 25%, even the orange tier, is not going to save the many small businesses and allow people to get back to their jobs with dignity. Therefore, I urge you to do two things. Immediately allow indoor dining and indoor gatherings to occur at 50% consistent with the orange tier. And second, you need to create a small business financial assistance fund so that we can really allow businesses to recover and start economic recovery.
Before the clerk goes on, I do just want to say to the public and Mr. Trong specifically, that many agencies hold public comment at the end of the meeting because there are scheduled meetings that the community is prepared to speak on. I will also remind you that we have a COVID-19 item on at approximately 4 o'clock that is meant as a time certain so the public can weigh in at that time with and know that they can speak on this topic at an opportunity when we can respond. I think making this political is very inappropriate. And Mr. Trong, I'd ask you to not do that in the future. I will also say that the reason we're doing public comment broken down like this is because we have hundreds of people who would like to participate today. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sal Caruso. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you, President Chavez and others for this opportunity. I would like to request two things. One, equal treatment of churches and small businesses as been stated by the prior speakers. And secondly, I would like to request a full hearing on this matter. If we actually matter to you as a community, meaning the faith community and small businesses, and I'll need to remind the board that small businesses provide over 65% of the nation's employment. It is not Apple and Safeway and the others that employ the majority. Small minority groups, Vietnamese, Hispanic, everyone, are actually the ones that are most hurt by these harmful ordinances and restrictions. And remember, we must represent all of the community, not just the large interests. So I do appreciate all the work that you have done faithfully and to help us, but I do request a full hearing on this matter so that we really do actually have the full opportunity to speak on this. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Susan Bassey, who will be followed by Scott Largent and Tim Lundy. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. My name is Susan Bassey, and I have filed a sworn statement to the Federal FPPC Commission related to the 2018 election, where I believe and have alleged that Jeff Rosen, Michelle Dauber for the committee to recall Judge Persky, and Cindy Hendrickson engaged in fraudulent practices, which the supervisors are aware of based on a public records response. The fact that elections are a huge issue of public interest is concerning that the county is simply ignoring what happened in our election in 2018. I'd also like to comment that the voter registrar office in the county has consistently refused my public records requests, has consistently refused my request to access records, and they have been concealing records related to this 2018 election, specifically for records related to Cindy Hendrickson. And as far as Jack Solario's comments earlier, Mr. Solario may have been well loved by his family, but there is another side to what he did on the job, and that included false reports in hearings.
Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Largent. I guess I'm opening up Pandora's box right here, but there's a time and place for saying certain things, and just pick your spots, Bassey. Don't start saying things about an officer that passed away. I was arrested by Jack Solario. I thought he was a really good guy, and he served our country, and he basically did what he was ordered to do. I think he was a good man, and I just think that's disgusting that somebody would get on here and say that. His family is actually on this Zoom call right now, and I'm sorry you have to hear that. Hopefully we'll implement Laura's law here pretty soon in Santa Clara County, and we can actually put Susan Bassey in the cage that she belongs, and she can stop harassing everybody in our community. That woman is a scam. You guys understand it, and just figure it out so we don't have to deal with her anymore. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tim Lundy. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I'm with Venture Christian Church, and I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for the movement that you have instituted on for the sake of churches. But I would ask also that it would match the state guidelines. Our county guidelines continue to stay behind. We have been patient in this process, but now is the time to move forward. Churches have the opportunity to be able to do contact tracing. Churches have the opportunity to provide a safe environment, and churches have reopened all across the country by the thousands. And with these protocols in place, we can do this safely. I would also encourage all of the board to read the Great Barrington Declaration, written by 3 epidemiologists, one of which who works at Stanford University, professor there, calling for a protected opening because they see the rising health risk. As a church, we are on the front line and we see these risks.
Our next speaker is Erica Ameri, followed by Rick Beatty. Erica, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Erica, can you unmute yourself?
Excuse me, I would like to speak at the appropriate time for in regards to the fire items 16 and 18. I think that's at 1 o'clock today. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
Erica, if you want to speak now, since you're already on, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. I would like to say that I've grown up in Los Altos Hills. I remember the fires in the 70s at Page Mill Estates that took out over 15 homes off of Page Mill in Arastradero. I would like to say that I would like to keep the current plan in place to benefit the Los Altos Hills residents. We have benefited and will continue to benefit from the chipping program that's essential in our community. And I do think our local management assists the county. And I see that this is something tantamount now more than ever before. And I would like this to continue. Thank you very much for taking my call, and I appreciate the time.
Our next speaker is Rick Beatty. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Well, good morning. Thank you. My name is Rick Beatty and I'm co-founder of the Alessandra Foundation, a grateful member of Gateway City Church, and I serve on the board of the SVO. My family and I have been involved in building this valley since the 1930s. Today, I ask that you cast off the political nuances and truly follow the science. I'm asking you to encourage the health director to acknowledge that the county's stated goal back in March was to slow the spread of COVID, not stop it. We have done just that, and I think we've all done a great job. During this pandemic, my faith in Christ has sustained me every day. I lost my job due to COVID, but God's my provider. The faith communities in this county have been at the forefront of providing these critical community services as well as mental health services to all the communities. Our community stands ready to safely open our sanctuaries. The county has thus far deprived me and my faith family of our basic rights guaranteed in the Constitution. The Constitution guarantees my right to assemble and worship as I please all the time, no exceptions. And I believe that you all have sworn an oath to uphold those rights. Be well, thank you, and God bless you.
Our next speaker is Dr. J. Wayne Moncari. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute.
Hi, I'm Dr. Wayne Mancari of Cathedral of Faith, and one of our strategies at Cathedral during this pandemic was to take care of our community. We've distributed over $25 million worth of food to over 300,000 of our community, plus delivered to over 100,000 seniors. And the headline of this story is that with thousands of interactions, we've had no cases of coronavirus. We know how to set safe guidelines. We know how to follow safe guidelines. Our other strategy is to provide support to the 60,000 people who are in our database through online gathering, social media, emails, letters, and calls. They are unanimously desperate to gather indoors in person. We're asking you to allow regathering at percentage capacity with no maximum number. Here's our final strategy. The Board of Supervisors put Dr. Cody in office, and we put you in office. I will do my best to remind the 60,000 in our database about your lack of action on our behalf when your elections come up. Allow regathering at percentage capacity with no maximum number. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carl Woodland. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you for taking this time. My name is Carl Woodland, and I've served for the last 2 years as the chairman of the Interfaith Community of South County. my personal affiliation being with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have been a resident of Santa Clara County for over 60 years. Our interfaith community represents 19 congregations and approximately 3,500 faithful worshipers from several diverse faith traditions. Over the past several months during the COVID lockdown, we deeply missed our freedom to gather together in fellowship and worship as we exercise our faith. As the Board of Supervisors considers moving our county to COVID restart level orange, I offer to you the commitment of the faith community to take the CDC protocols for level orange seriously and implement them without reservation so that our congregations may meet again, worship, and minister as we reach out to heal, recover, and continue to serve our communities for the common good. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Donnell Duran. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, Don Duran, member of Gateway City Church. Please work with the faith communities to allow safe reopening of our churches. Lives are positively changed through the church community in so many ways. Mine was. The church community gives back and helps in times of need, and we are in a time of need right now. The benefits of reopening with strict adherence to COVID guidelines outweighs the cost of keeping our churches closed. As the stressors of the pandemic weigh on people, many could be lost, slip into depression, homelessness, and some could even go as far as to take their own life. Our churches will help prevent that by offering a place to go for support, provide hope and faith, healing, and love. I agree with Cindy Chavez, president of the County Board of Supervisors, when she said, quote, "Our community has sacrificed a lot and been patient, and now we look forward to the successful return to activities," unquote. We've given enough, including our constitutional right to free exercise of religion. Please consider our faith communities as allies and hear the strategy submitted to the board by the South Bay Pastors Network and safely regather indoors. Thank you, and I'll continue to pray for you all.
Our next speaker is Kyle Windsor. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
My name is Kyle Windsor. I've been a 56-year resident of Santa Clara County. I have helped start many businesses in the county, such as the King's Academy, many churches, which over the decades have influenced tens of thousands of people for the good. Thank you so much for your work, supervisors, during these tough times. I know it's not been easy for you. Today, I'm speaking to you as the pastor and founder of Community Christian with locations in Gilroy, Morgan Hill, and Campbell, where we've helped the community in many ways, including feeding over 20,000 people in the last few years. I am here today to specifically ask you to work with the faith communities to allow us to open up indoor operations by November 1st, before the winter weather hits. I would love for you to put that on today's agenda. As a resident, I'm also asking you to remove the Santa Clara County Fire District item from today's agenda. Thank you again for all you do for working with the churches. Please allow us to regather inside by November 1st. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Diane Clemens. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. My name is Diane Clemens, and I'm a member of Venture Christian Church. And I'm here today to ask that you please work with the faith communities to fully allow us to open indoors as we maintain safe social distancing and mask wearing protocols. We have seen an incredible increase in the number of students and adults who are struggling in their mental health with anxiety and depression due to isolation. So I'm asking that you please work with us to get our churches fully open so that we can come alongside our students and their families and help the people in our community. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Jack Hilton. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, County Board of Supervisors, staff, and the public. I'm Zach Hilton from Gilroy. I am requesting that Santa Clara County to take a proactive leadership role to demonstrate pathways to safely reopening the economy. We find the ways to mitigate risk and safely live with the virus. Keeping the economy shut down is not a solution. We can accomplish this by setting high standards for health and safety protocols that limit the transmission of COVID-19 and allow small businesses to operate and employees to get back to work. The state and county have two different goalposts for safely reopening. Our economy and our small businesses are caught in the crosshairs, suffering as a result. At a minimum, the county must clearly communicate how we can find solutions to safely reopen using an evidence-based approach to limit the spread of COVID-19. Santa Clara County must prioritize saving our small businesses by steering financial resources to help them stay afloat, especially when they're being forced to remain shut down. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Ryan Nicholson. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
My name is Ryan Nicholson and I'm a member of Community Christian. I'm here today to ask that you please work with the faith communities to allow us to open up indoor operations safely by November 1st before the winter weather hits. During this pandemic, my faith has been my foundation, the thing that has given me hope in dark days and allowed me to be a light in a dark world. Stopping the benefits of the local church gathering when the weather becomes a barrier for outdoor gatherings would be depriving me and my family and many others of constitutionally protected benefits. And I'm asking you to please work with us to get our houses of worship fully open by this winter. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marv Griffin. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
My name is Marvin Griffin, and I am an elder at Venture Christian Church. I am also 75 years old and represent many of this older age group. I am here today to ask you to work with the faith communities to allow us to open indoor operations as soon as possible. During this pandemic, my faith in Jesus Christ has sustained me and my family during uncertain and difficult times. It appears to me, however, that many among my peers are dealing with isolation, depression, despair, suicidal thoughts, and even early death as a result of being sheltered. These outcomes appear to be worse than the COVID illness in my mind. Reopening churches in a safe manner would allow us to worship, have companionship, be encouraged mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and be able to better serve our community. I am asking that we work together to get our houses of worship fully open in a cooperative and safe manner so that we will all be healthier. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is JC Park. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
First of all, thanks for all your hard work to keep everyone safe in our county. My name is JC and I'm with the Venture Christian Church. I want to tell you that most in our faith community have been supportive of your leadership. We had not perceived the restriction as something just targeting us. If you thought differently, but most of us have been standing behind you. But the atmosphere has been changing lately due to the lack of objective standards for our county's safety protocols that are inconsistent with the state's recommendations. Many are now losing confidence. People are suffering and worship gatherings are essential. Yes, technology helps us to meet still, but it is a horrible replacement, especially for those going through difficulties. And people are struggling, as you know. Please provide objective standards for the safety protocols. And I'd like to request that we keep our protocols at least consistent with that of state's recommendations. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Bella Taddy. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Bella?
Good morning, supervisors. Good morning. My name is Bella Taddy. I am a member of Venture Christian Church, and I'm here today to ask that you would work with us, the faith communities, to allow us to open indoor operations by November 1st before the winter weather hits. During this pandemic, my faith has been strained as the community I once had was taken away. And as a college student, I have found that my mental, physical, and emotional health has been affected in negative ways due to the lack of support and community in my life. I know I'm not alone in this struggle, and we are the county's allies, and we want to be the solution to the problem in our county. And I ask that you would take a look at the 4-point strategy submitted by the board by South Bay Pastors Network to safely regather indoors, and let us know if these protocols can be implemented. Stopping these benefits when the weather becomes a barrier for outdoor gatherings would be depriving me and my faith family of constitutionally protected benefits.
Our next speaker is Sam Whitaker. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for all your work. I know you must be as exhausted as the rest of us, so thank you. My name is Sam Whitaker. I'm a lifelong member of South Valley Community Church in Gilroy. I'm here because I wanted to ask you to please work with churches to allow us to safely reopen within the California guidelines. It's been incredibly difficult for my family, losing the regular rhythm of gathering together with our church community, for my wife and I, but particularly for our kids. You know, prior to the pandemic, church was a deeply significant rhythm in our lives, particularly for my toddler, being part of a community, seeing friends and family. And it's been a heartbreaking thing for her to lose that for 6 months. And so I just worry that her sense of belonging in the church may never be the same because of this. And so for many churches and businesses, the red tier restrictions are still prohibitive, make it difficult for us to operate. So I'm asking that you allow churches to safely operate at 50% capacity in alignment with the state.
Our next speaker is Manny Pereira. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. My name is Manny Pereira and I'm the lead pastor of Trinity Bible Church in Morgan Hill. I'm here today to ask that you please work with the faith communities to allow us to gather indoors, at least according to the state's blueprint. We, as a community of faith, respect and honor you and your tremendous responsibilities, especially during this time. And we too acknowledge that it is not easy for you. This Sunday will make 210 days, that's 6 months and 26 days of isolation as a church. And we have widows and singles that need to gather and need connection. Unlike businesses, we are not a consumer entity. Our issue is primarily a matter of worship. And worship is a constitutionally protected right. To hinder the reopening of churches hinders not only the benefits that people of faith receive, but also hinders the worship of God. We ask that you would please work with us to be in step with the state's blueprint.
Our next speaker is Josh Becknell. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. My name is Josh Becknell, and I am a member of Church on the Hill. And like so many others, I am gathered here today to ask you to continue to work with the faith communities to release the restrictions on indoor gatherings. I saw the progress we made yesterday, and that is slightly encouraging, but I still feel like we are significantly behind California's restrictions. It has been our position as a church to do what's best for our neighbors. And in the beginning of the pandemic, what was best for our neighbors was to close services to slow the spread. However, after 7 months, what is best for our neighbors has shifted. I'm seeing students stuck in home with broken relationships and building tensions with no way out. We tell them to talk about issues on virtual calls without the realization that they cannot, because the issues they're referring to are right outside the bedroom door listening, and that will only make matters worse. What's best for our neighbors now is to have the option to attend church, and for many churches, a gathering of 100 is inadequate to meet the needs of their whole congregation.
Our next speaker is Tong Lu. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Tong Liu. I'm the senior pastor of the River of Life Christian Church, which is a Chinese church of more than 3,000 people. We serve the Chinese community of Silicon Valley, also operate a large food pantry program for the community. But as leaders of community, we have a responsibility to care for the mental well-being of our people. It's especially important and part of the cultural Chinese community to gather and show support for one another. And not to be able to do this in any capacity has been detrimental to the well-being of so many people. As a church, we have complied with all the regulation of sanitation and would like to continue to be part of the solution for our community by being able to reopen our church as soon as possible and as much as possible. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Murphy. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. I'm Michael Murphy and I'm speaking on behalf of Venture Church. I thank the board for the privilege to speak. I am a Christian and a pastor, and I've given my entire life to serving the needs and the lives of people, and most recently, the people of Santa Clara County through the ministries of Venture. And I'm in support of the safe reopening of indoor gatherings in churches. The closures that we've been subjected to over the past 6+ months have taken a tremendous mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual toll on the thousands of congregants in whom we love and care for deeply. While the announcement yesterday was a small step in the right direction, it's not aligned to the state of California. So I ask that you give strong consideration to moving forward and aligning our county protocols to that of the state. Thank you so much. We appreciate all that you're doing, and we pray for you.
Our next speaker is Dana Clifford. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute, and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Dana Clifford, and I'm a member of Westgate Church as well as one of the pastors. I ask that you please work to allow faith communities to regather indoors in a safe way at a capacity consistent with the state's indoor gathering guidelines. My responsibilities as a pastor put me in contact with many people whose mental, emotional, and spiritual health is being affected by the restrictions of religious assembly. When we are allowed to gather, Christians are buoyed up to be able to continue to battle against all kinds of disease that affect our community, our county. COVID-19, of course, but also things like poverty, injustices, mental illness. We desire to bring good to those around us, and regathering will be a part of this ability to do that. Thank you for listening and for your service to our county.
Our next speaker is Carol Cohen. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute, and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Carol Cohen. I'm a voter, a pastor at Gateway City Church, and executive director of Gateway Community Outreach. We provide supportive services to food-scarce families and outreaches to vulnerable populations. We appreciate the recent loosening of the risk reduction orders, but it's not what we need and expect to see. The county's still not aligned with the state, even though our case rates have decreased. We're still being treated differently than the rest of the state, and the changes are arbitrary based on opinion rather than scientific fact or an objective structure, as is in the state's tiered system. These undue restrictions have a disparate impact on the vulnerable populations that we serve. So we urge you to allow the churches and their community outreaches to safely reopen our indoor activities and serve these vulnerable populations. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Janae Brown. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute, and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janaea, and I'm a member of Community Christian. I'm here today to ask that you please work with the faith communities to allow us to open up indoor operations safely by November 1st before the winter weather hits. My faith in Jesus is a blessing to me and my family in so many ways. My faith and my church have created a strong and positive foundation for us during this challenging time. There are so many benefits of being a part of a faith community that can gather and connect together in person. Stopping these benefits when the weather becomes a barrier for outdoor gatherings will be depriving me and my family of constitutionally protected benefits. And I'm asking you today to please work with us to get our houses of worship fully open by this winter. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Elliot Sands. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute, and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
My name is Elliot Sands. I am the executive pastor at Church on the Hill. My family has actually been highly involved in supporting and improving our community since the early 1940s. Thank you so much for all your hard work, your care for our community. We appreciate, Supervisors, what you are doing. Part of a church responsibility, though, is to meet the spiritual and emotional needs of our people. And as you know, in the past months, the emotional and spiritual distress on our people and families in our community is extreme. I am sure you're acutely aware of the effects COVID has had on our community. Your community, our community, is under distress from every direction. You can help relieve a little bit of that stress and pain by allowing people to safely meet in our church buildings again. As we move into colder weather with less daylight, the emotional distress will increase from where we are now. please help our families, our communities, the people that call this county their home, by allowing us to regather safely in our church buildings so the church can do what we do, which is to provide spiritual and emotional support to our people. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Ramiro Avina. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Ramiro Avina, and I'm a member of Trinity Bible Church. And first, just wanted to thank you all for allowing us to speak here. First timer, never done this before, so it's kind of exciting. I definitely am echoing a lot of the previous comments. I'm here today to just request that the board would please allow the faith communities to open up their doors for safe indoor operation as soon as possible, and really no later than November 1st, obviously because of the winter. A major part of Christ Church, in my opinion, is the fellowship and the fellowshipping with the one another's. And this is great because it really creates a positive atmosphere and it helps individuals grow and maintain, optimal health and physically and mentally. And as a church, we've humbly accepted your guidelines since March. But now at this point, I'd like to urge you to please, at the very least, align with the state's guidelines and allow us to open up, please, by no later than November 1st.
Our next speaker is Dave Stewart. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my comments today. I'm with Venture Christian Church also. And as many others have, I'd like to request the safe reopening of indoor gathering of churches and businesses in Santa Clara County. Over the past 7 months, we've seen a significant increase in anxiety, depression, suicides, and marital and family conflict. Those who are part of a faith community experience positive emotional and health benefits from worshiping together in person. I'm asking that we would match the state's recommendations for in-person gatherings at 50% capacity. And I'm also requesting that the supervisors take a look at the 4-point strategy submitted by local pastors.
Our next speaker is Heather Aspie. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, thank you so much for taking some time. My name is Heather Espy and I'm also part of Venture Christian Church, and I'm here to advocate for the safe reopening of the churches. I think a lot of what has been said is what I'm just going to repeat is that the mental health for so many people has been such a hard spot in this pandemic. And I think I'm asking that we look at the state guidelines and line up with them. For my own health, I've suffered as well, being unable to gather in person. So I am here to advocate for that and just ask that is looked at and that we are able to open by November 1st. And that the outdoor gatherings are not a long-term solution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to, I'm sorry to interrupt the clerk. I wanted to let folks know who are joining the call and who've joined more recently that we're taking about 20 more public speakers, and then public comment will be moved to the end of the agenda. What I wanted to let all of you know is that many of you are speaking to an item that is on the agenda. It's item 19 that will not be heard before or no earlier than 4 o'clock. This time is normally reserved for people who want to raise an item that is not on the agenda. So if you aren't able to speak and you're speaking about COVID-19, then it is item 19 at approximately 4 o'clock that you can return, or you can speak at the end of the agenda when we adjourn, which will be sometime later this evening. I want to also just say that you can go online to look at the agenda if you are wanting to speak to an item that is
that is not, I'm sorry, another item that's on the agenda that you were waiting to speak to. Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting the clerk.
Our next speaker is Greg Wenschleich. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, supervisors. Thank you for taking our calls. My name is Greg Wenschleich. I am senior pastor at Abundant Life Assembly of God Church in Cupertino. I'm also the husband of a small business owner. My wife owns and operates Landmark Hearing Services in Sunnyvale, a 30-year business that is in jeopardy right now because of the restrictions that have been placed on her and her business. I agree with many of the commenters so far, so I'd just like to mention one item, that the church is not an activity that we do. The church is who we are, not only to each other, but to the community. And one of those ministries to the community that has been hindered because of the restrictions is to the JW House, which is a ministry to Kaiser Hospital ICU patients and their families. Families are suffering and we can't minister to them because of the restrictions placed on us. So I urge you to at least match the state's requirements and let us open to worship, but also to serve our community effectively. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Randall Wing. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Randall, can you hear us?
Hi, my name is Randall Wing. I am here today to ask that you please work with the business and faith communities to safely reopen indoors immediately. Everywhere I go, I see shops and restaurants I once patronized now closed or desperately holding on under crippling restrictions. I see people living in increasing levels of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness. It is time to recognize that the cure of imposed isolation is now worse than the disease. My faith is not just a private belief system. It is inseparably linked to connection with other people by serving, encouraging, praying with and for others, and worshiping together with them. The ability to meet outdoors has been a great compromise, but will soon be an unworkable solution. Stopping these benefits when the weather becomes a barrier for outdoor gatherings would be depriving me and my faith family of constitutionally protected benefits. I'm asking you to please work with us to get our business.
Our next speaker is Ben Pierce. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you so much. I'm a care pastor at Westgate Church, which means that people wind up in my office if their marriage is strained or exploding, if their kids are depressed or in suicidal ideation, if there's substance abuse or addiction, or if there's mental health issues. And these have been exacerbated by the isolation our people are affecting. Ministering to these kind of things, that's Jesus's day job and it's ours too. But right now the restrictions have us doing it with one hand tied behind our back. The face-to-face time people get when we worship together, they get encouragement from the worship, and the face-to-face time lets us talk each other off the ledges that we get on when we're isolated. And we feel like we've squeezed about all the juice we can out of the lemon of virtual meeting. We'd like to ask for the ability to meet at 50% capacity. We're resourceful, we can work with that, and we can better partner with you for the common good. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Kevin Kursanabi. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Kevin Kursanabe, and I'm a resident of Gilroy and a pastor and member of South Valley Community Church. First, I want to thank you all for trying to lead as best as possible under these trying circumstances. Your service to the county is appreciated. With hundreds of others, I'm here today to ask you to work with faith communities to allow us to move safely indoors in accordance with state guidelines. Like you, the church wants to serve our neighborhoods. We are a community within the community designed to bless and build up our neighborhoods. The county rules set in place during the pandemic have made it not only difficult to serve our neighbors, but virtually impossible to revitalize our own church family. Our worship gatherings are designed to recenter us as a family and provide the fuel by which we can go out and support our communities. We too are struggling with depression, anxiety, and pandemic funk. We want to safely open our doors again, according to the state guidelines, and we are asking you to help us do that. Thank you again for your time and consideration. We continue to pray for you, our county, and the world as we work through this challenging time.
Our next speaker is Stan Vados. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Well, hi, thank you very much for taking everyone's calls. I'm from South Valley Community Church as well. I've worked with students for the last 25 years of my life, and the novelty of Zoom and other video conferencing options grew old after only like 2 or 3 weeks. Since then, I've watched as the mental health of students has decreased. Rhea, the person who opened up and gave that nice poem, had a poem about hugs and hands and smiles, and these things are missing right now. And yeah, we could be easily, safely meeting, and our current restrictions are outside of the state's current restrictions. And even the new guidelines from yesterday are outside of what can be happening safely. And so for us, smoke was unforeseen, and that changed things. Rain is going to be unforeseen, and the guidelines need to stay consistent with the state guidelines for the sake of our next generation.
The next speaker identified with the number ending in 2960. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. This is the individual identified with the number ending in 2960.
Could you unmute yourself, please? Perhaps we need to come back to them.
Yes, our next speaker is Megpa Fohas. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, I'm here to address the safe reopening of the economy and the safe reopening of indoor gatherings, specifically indoor church gatherings. Thank you for letting me address you this morning. I'm here representing Venture Christian Church. As elected officials, I'd hope you think of the people of Santa Clara County as your people. I'd hope you think of me as your people. I know that the members at Venture Christian Church and many others do too. We serve our communities as well and want the best for them. Since the beginning of shelter-in-place, vital gatherings have been suspended, including those vital to the economy and to the community as a whole. The effects of this is felt across the board, from children to students and we adults. As social beings, we crave interactions with our loved ones and friends. I look forward to church gatherings. It's like the party you've ever been to, and all your closest friends and loved ones are there. What I'm saying is that it keeps me going. It rejuvenates my wife and I, and we look forward to being able to meet again. The people of the church in Santa Clara Valley can work with you. Let us be your voice to our people. Let us be that bridge. We want to move forward.
Our next speaker is Therese Mansfield. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, I'm a member of the home church, and I am imploring you to lift the ban on churches and other houses of faith to allow their congregates to safely meet in person. The home church has followed all of the COVID guidelines to keep the congregation safe. My family and I, we understand the risks of meeting in person, but we choose to take a risk because our spiritual and our emotional well-being is just as important as our physical health. I am asking that the county match the state guidelines to allow the faith community to meet 50% capacity. To restrict to 25% is not sufficient to meet the needs of the congregation. 50% is still not efficient, but it was more helpful. We need you to come alongside us. We need you to consider the residents' spiritual needs and to reopen the church. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jordan Nunez. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is Jordan Nunez of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors.
We believe that the county risk reduction order should align with what the state colored tiers allow to limit confusion for businesses, especially small businesses and residents. Allowing these businesses to further reopen is crucial for the economic recovery of the region and our small businesses, while doing so in a safe manner deemed acceptable by the state. We also urge the county to allocate or advocate for further assistance programs for small businesses, particularly independent contractors and small property housing providers. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Janet Pocus. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. My name is Janet Pocus, and I'm a member of West Hills Community Church. First, I want to thank you for allowing me to go to Costco and shop. How exciting. Thank you for allowing me to go to my workplace. Thank you for allowing me to go to specific government buildings. However, I'm here today to ask that you allow me to go into my church. I'm asking that you allow faith communities to open up indoor operations by November 1st before the winter weather hits. My faith and my interaction with my fellow church members are vital to my spiritual and mental health, especially during this pandemic, and I know I'm not alone. If I can go to Costco, I should be allowed to go into my church building with a whole bunch of other people. If I'm allowed to go to my workplace, I can go to church. If I can go to a government building, I should be allowed to go into my church building. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paul Gerlach. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, I'm Paul Gerlach, and I'm a pastor. I've been pastoring in this valley for about 30 years. I'm currently the care pastor at Venture Christian Church, and we would like you to remove the restrictions for safe opening for our gatherings by November 1st, and in compliance with the rest of the state of California safe guidelines. Our faith is a relationship, not only with God, but our faith is really a relationship with other believers, other people that want to find and follow Jesus. And so it's imperative. I'm also working with people on a daily basis that have been negatively impacted by the exasperated situation that of shelter in place and church shutdowns. So we are asking that you would allow us to safely meet in our large spaces. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shasta Erickson. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Dr. Shasta Erickson. I'm a holistic medicine doctor licensed for 26 years here in Santa Clara County. I'm a policymaker for our profession, writing guidelines that kept acupuncture and workers' comp that insurance companies use to authorize treatments, including non-opioid pain management. Most of my colleagues have gone out of business. With over 10 years of training, this is a tragedy. I've stayed open, practicing proper health guidelines and proper PPE, and I've gone $40,000 in debt to do so, as 70% of my patients have not come back. When they do, they are experiencing severe depression, anxiety, insomnia, hypertension, pain, and weight gain. What if what Dr. John Ioannidis from Stanford, the epidemiologist and most quoted scientist in the world, is correct? Lockdowns will cause more harm than good. What if what the New York Times reports on August 29th, your coronavirus test is positive? Maybe it shouldn't be. And stating possible 90% false positives due to amplification of PCR tests being too high. What if we are following a defective PCR test?
Our next speaker is Tom Claggett. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
My name is Tom Claggett. I serve as a pastor at Venture Christian Church. And first of all, we appreciate you and your service to the residents of this county. Thank you for the recent movement in the guidelines. But we remain behind the state of California guidelines for no apparent or obvious reason. I can assure you that we care deeply about the health of our families, and we will observe protocols to reopen safely. Gathering to worship is not only constitutionally protected, but it is an essential service for many in our community. We truly seek to be part of the solution, not the problem. Thank you for all you're doing. God bless you.
Our next speaker is Jesselyn Holman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about safely navigating the difficulty of opening places of worship. My name is Jesselyn Holman, and I recently had a baby in June, and I had a lot of trouble during the pandemic. It was very difficult because I struggled with preeclampsia and had to give birth early, which caused my baby to be in the NICU for 8 days and me in the hospital for a week. And it was a very difficult time for me and my husband, but our faith really got us through. And the church, our church, was so important, and it was such a support system to us. And now that we are back home, they continue to be such a support system to us. It has been a blessing to gather outside, but I am asking you guys, now that it's going to get colder outside, to please consider opening up churches by November 1st so that we can gather together in a safe manner. Thank you guys so much, and I pray blessings on you.
Our next speaker is Maya. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning. My name is Maya Mansour, and my business was shut down for 7 months consecutively. And the only thing that kept me going strong while facing this hardship was my faith. So we're calling for the safe reopening of the faith community and all small businesses indoors as soon as possible. We're praying that you would give out a lending hand to everyone and become a solution rather than a problem. Also, it was announced that licensed estheticians can now join the rest of the personal care industry. However, I'm still not able to open. It's contingent upon us finding N95 masks that are extinct. We need a sufficient amount for all of our staff, and we were only able to find KN95 masks, and we don't know if those would work. If the county is making it mandatory for us to use them in our work, then we would expect the county to make them available for us to find them, or at least have a list of acceptable alternatives. We were never given.
Our next speaker is John Headley. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is John Headley. I'm a Christian and a pastor here at Gateway City Church in San Jose. When the pandemic first started and no one knew how dangerous it would be, all hands were on deck and the shutdown came and everyone kind of held their breath to see what happened. But as everyone really worked hard to pull together and make this successful for everyone, then we saw that we could begin normal life in so many ways. But normal life hasn't happened for the Christian community as it pertains to the buildings and the gathering and being able to support each other in a reasonable manner. And so we're asking for the county to look and see the best path forward for the faith communities as outlined by the past.
Our next speaker is Daniel Herrera. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Herrera. I am a member of Cathedral of Faith. I am here today to ask that you please work with the faith communities to open up indoor operations by November 1st. During this pandemic, I have been a member and a participant of hundreds of video conference calls with people around the nation and around the world. We're at a time when you ask us to follow the science, I don't understand how the science can change from Fargo, North Dakota, to Seattle, to San Jose, to the UK, to the Brazil, and to India. all of which have different protocols, different standards, and one science. I would like to ask that you take a look at the 4-point strategy submitted by the Board of South Bay Pastors to allow us to open up our churches and have our faith community. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And I want to just say to the clerk, Daniel's the last speaker right now, and I want to ask if you could call upon the person who was unable to unmute before. The phone number will be the last speaker at this time.
Sure. That was speaker with the number ending in 2960. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. You need to unmute yourself.
It looks like they may not know how to do that. So what I would like to do is, for all of you who still have a hand raised, I do want to remind any of you that are here to speak to an item on the agenda to please look up that item. If it's COVID-19, it's at 9 o'clock. I'm sorry, it's at 4 o'clock and it's number 19. We are going to be taking the fire issues as close to 1 o'clock as we can, and food items and security issues at 10:30. And I want to thank my colleagues. I know it is not customary for us to have people speak to an item that is on the agenda with so many folks. And I also just want to say to those of you who were raising your hand to speak to an item that's actually not on the agenda today, I apologize, but we know that we have a lot of people who are feeling very passionate and urgent about these issues. The next item we're going to go to is the consent calendar. And for this item, I'm going to go to each of my colleagues and get their feedback on the consent calendar. I know it's a little bit for my colleagues just to say, we'll take our time just making sure we get this right. Mike will make sure we get it right. And then what I will do is take public comment on the consent calendar only. If you are speaking to an item that's not on consent, I will ask that you refrain from speaking. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to the clerk to have them review the consent calendar.
We have a request from administration to continue item 9 to October 20th, 2020. Item number 9 is a public hearing to consider the purchase of real property located at 330 Distal Circle, Los Altos for a public purpose. We have a request from Supervisor Cortese to delete item number 16 and 17. Item number 16 is to adopt a resolution of the Governing Board of the Santa Clara County Central Fire Protection District initiating application by the Santa Clara County Central Fire Protection District for the dissolution of the South Santa Clara County Fire District and the Los Altos Hills County Fire District and the annexation of their territories into the Santa Clara County Central Fire Protection District. Item number 17 is to adopt a resolution of the Governing Board of the South Santa Clara County Fire District rescinding its delegation of authority to the South Santa Clara County Fire District Board of Commissioners and initiating application by the South Santa Clara County Fire District requesting the Santa Clara County Local Agency Formation Commission pursue proceedings for the dissolution of the South Santa Clara County Fire District and the Los Altos Hills County Fire District and the annexation of their territories into the Santa Clara County Central Fire Protection District. We have a request from President Chavez to add item number 30 to the consent calendar. Item number 30 is to receive a report relating to the Transportation Needs Assessment for County Clients, Employee Transportation Demand Management Implementation Guide, and the Reach Your Destination Easily program. We have a request from administration to hold item number 32 to October 20th, 2020. Item number 32, receive report relating to campus policing at Stanford University. We have a request from President Chavez to remove item number 52 from the consent calendar. Item number 52 is to receive monthly status report on items referred to administration. We have a request from President Chavez to remove item number 55 from the consent calendar to be heard concurrently with item number 28. Item number 28 is to receive report relating to the implementation of the 2016 Measure A Affordable Housing Bond. Item number 55 is to consider recommendations relating to the transfer of 9 parcels of county-owned real property from the Roads and Airports Department to the Facilities and Fleet Department at fair market value. That concludes the consent calendar update.
Thank you. And I'm going to go through, as we always do, from left to right. And I wanted to start with Supervisor Cortese, then go to Supervisor Ellenberg, then Supervisor Simidian, and then Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you, President Chavez. First of all, let me just say before I forget to do it that I want to record an abstention on item 49 that happens to be the Prop 19 item. So when I vote for the balance of the consent calendar, please record an abstention for me on 49. On items 16 and 17, my request that the clerk just called out regarding some of the fire items. 17, let me go kind of backwards in numerical order. 17, I stand by my request to delete it, obviously subject to the balance of the board being willing to do that. Item number 16, somehow I think got a little bit confused from committee, at least the FGOC committee, which I chair, as the direction moved from there to this board agenda. I thought the intention, or was trying to clarify the intention at FGOC to have separate resolutions for the 2 separate districts that would be under discussion relative to consolidation or annexation. And it appears, and I just caught this in the last 24 to 48 hours, that being one resolution, that they essentially are sort of embedded together, and I'm not clear how to separate them out at this point, or if that can be done, essentially bifurcating the vote on those, so that my intention would be to delete South County, which would be consistent with under 60, which would be consistent with deleting item 17, which is also South County, the delegation of authority issue. So President Chavez, I would just, before we can move forward, I'd like to ask council to clarify whether or not it's even possible to separate out items, the 2 districts in item 16 in that resolution at this point, or if that's just something that can't be done.
Thank you. If I could ask Mr. Williams, if you could weigh in.
Sure. Supervisor Cortese, you are correct that they are the 3 items, 16, 17, and 18 are as written, are written as a package, but they are separable legally. And so if your intention is to just remove South County, what you would do is delete item 17, but leave 16 and 18 on the agenda. And then in the action with respect to those items, the action would be to strike in those resolutions the references to South County. And that would accomplish, I believe, what you are requesting, as I understand it, which would be to remove references to the South County district.
Okay, well, let me just say before we move on to the other board members, President Chavez, that what Mr. Williams just described in terms of, striking or essentially reducing item 16 down to Los Altos Hills only, or striking the part that references in the resolution South County was my intention when I put this request forward to delete the 2 items. I was not intending to delete the Los Altos Hills portion of the resolution, and again, confusion on my part, thinking that we had two separate resolutions before us in the first place. So I'll stop there, and that'll be the intention of the request as we move along here.
So may I repeat it, and then I'm gonna keep going. But on item, so you want to keep item 16. You want to delete item 16, but you want to delete from 17 all references to South County Fire.
It would be the other way around, Supervisor. You would keep item 16, which is the central fire item.
Thank you.
Delete item 17. So the item that would be deleted is 17.
And remove, okay. And that's what, Dave, what you'd like to contribute to the consent calendar discussion.
Yes, in addition to the abstention on 49 that I mentioned earlier, that would be my two items. Thank you.
Supervisor Ellenberg, before I go to you, Supervisor Wasserman, I think wants clarification on this item. So may I go to him since he was waving his blue hand, his handmade blue hand? Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. And I appreciate what Supervisor Cortese said. I appreciate what Attorney Williams has said. I oppose the consolidation of the South County Fire District. So whatever is possible to do now via a motion that I'm going to guess Supervisor Cortese, from what he just said, might join me in, I would remove all references to the South County Fire Districts in numbers 16, 17, and 18. I would ask through the chair to Mr. Williams, I believe Supervisor Cortese's intent was removing South County from 16 and 17. And I didn't quite understand why we can do it on one and not the other. And furthermore, I would simply like to remove it from 16, 17, and 18, Madam President.
So if I can just clarify, and I apologize if this was brought forward in a confusing way. I apologize on behalf of my office. Right now we're dealing with the agenda, and so the appropriate action would be to delete item 17. Deleting item 17 means legally that today the board could not effectuate action with respect to the South County Fire District, period. So that would be deletion of item 17. With respect to items 16 and 18, if the board were to adopt those resolutions, at that time, the appropriate action would be to strike in the resolutions any references to the South County District. And that can be done. It would just be deletions in the resolutions, and that can just be part of the motion. But that's not really a change to the agenda, if that makes sense, because you're not removing that item from the agenda.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, the reason I was bringing that up is deleting 17 means no action about South County. That's great. The reason I was asking if there was a way, and I know this isn't something we've done before, this is unique because, as Supervisor Cortese said, they're both kind of combined together. Because they are, what I was making a motion or joining a motion, I guess making a motion, is striking the reference to South Santa Clara County Fire District in 16 and 18 at this time. And if there's majority support for that, if it's allowed to be done, if you say it's allowed to be done legally, and there's majority support for that, that would then free up all of the people that might be interested in speaking about it later today. And I know deleting 17 effectively does that, but I believe not removing it from 16 and 18 still leaves it out there. But whatever you say is the legal thing to do, I certainly expressed how I feel.
Thank you. And I think I want to, just for clarity, this wouldn't be a motion. The action that's before us would be to delete and restructure items, not to take a motion on an outcome. And I'm asking James that because I want to
Yeah,
make sure.
that's right. That's where I'm trying to just.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to provide the clarity, which is, yeah, the board I think is expressing, if assuming the consent motion passes, the board by deleting 17 and through the statements is saying, action with respect to South County is not on the table. I think it sends that message.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you say, Madam Chair.
I'm telling you that the deletion of 17 means that no action.
Mike, just one moment. James, Mike's not able to hear you, but I can. And so I'm not sure if that's you, James, or Mike.
You too.
And now it's your sound also.
Ah. Let me ask the clerk if they can take a look at that. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. James, can you start again?
Sure. Can folks hear me now?
Yes, I can. Okay.
Okay. So what I was saying, because since we're dealing with the agenda item, is deletion of 17 means that there could not be legal action taken today to consolidate South County. I think that would be conveyed very clearly if that's what passes. And with respect to 16 and 18, I think the board would then be expressing a clear intent that South County would be off the table. I think editing the resolution or editing the language of the item during the consent calendar update is awkward to do. So I understand exactly what you're trying to achieve, Supervisor Wasserman, and I think that the action to delete 17 and express with the clear expression on the record, as I have stated, that doing so means that there could not be an effectuated action with respect to the South County Fire District achieves that result.
Thank you.
Does that satisfy your concern?
Yes, ma'am, through the chair. It's deleted, not deferred. Thank you.
Well, let me just make one more clarification. Are you saying, James, to only do that with 17 and then to essentially edit 16?
I'm saying delete 17, and the board is expressing its intent during the consent calendar update that 16 and 18, that action with respect to South County is not on the table. But I'm saying don't try to actually right now edit the language.
Thank you. Okay, so Supervisor Cortese, did you have any more comments or questions on your?
I'm fine with that clarification, at least as to my request. So I understand at this point we haven't voted on consent, so this is still simply a request of my colleagues.
Thank you.
But I appreciate Supervisor Wasserman's clarifications and the County Council's clarification.
Supervisor Ellenberg?
Thank you so much. I just want to make a quick comment on 59 and record an abstention on 49. With regard to 59, I want to take this opportunity very quickly to thank staff across our health and hospital system for your initial work in response to the race and health disparities referral, and thank County Council's office for the resolution to truly engage our residents and partners in this work through the community board. Thank you for that work. Item 14, I'm going to record an abstention. I have taken a public position in support of this proposition, and
you mean
I'm
49?
not compelled to change my mind.
You mean 49?
Item 49, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you said 14. I apologize. Okay.
No, let me just make sure I'm doing the right thing. Yes, it's item 14. It's item 49. The request on consent is to approve an opposed position to Prop 19, and that's the one from which I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. Joe?
I will also be an abstention on item 49.
Okay.
I would just note that means item 49 would lack sufficient votes.
Yes. I think we got that. I got to 3, James. So does that then just get deleted from the agenda, or just essentially does it die with 3 abstentions?
It can either die with 3 abstentions or the board could choose to delete it. It's the board's pleasure.
Okay, I'm going to just recommend we delete that item, if that's all right with my colleagues, just to make it less confusing. Okay. All right, Mike.
No, ma'am. Thank you. I'm good.
All right. So I know this is going to be a long meeting, so I'm going to try to put a few things on consent. I will go slowly, so if any of my colleagues have any concerns, they can stop me. So on item 11, this is a report out of our continuum of care. I wanted to acknowledge that the staff report does not reflect board direction. The board's direction was to have a 1-year transition. The staff report says we'd have a 3-year transition. This is relative to our partnership with Seneca. What I'd like to do is have this come back to Children's Family Seniors for a more fulsome discussion, and then have it come back to the board, if that's okay with my colleagues. So essentially, we would defer this item until it goes back to committee. And then Dr. Smith, on that item, we'll work with your staff to make sure you can attend that meeting if that's acceptable to you.
Supervisor Chavez,
yes.
It's fine to put 11 on consent. I did have a number of questions and comments. I'm trying to think of whether I should just send those to staff to be considered at your committee meeting. Is that an appropriate direction, or I'd rather not wait until the next meeting. I also have concerns about the Seneca contract.
Good. James, is it all right if that gets sent directly to staff?
Supervisor, you can always send your questions to staff to have that be incorporated in the.
Right. I want to make sure that they're incorporated in the committee discussion.
Yes. Yeah. If you send them, and I guess I would just suggest copy me as the chair, and then we'll make sure they're incorporated.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Susan. And then the other thing that Dr. Smith, the reason I was asking is because there's other issues relative to the Welcoming Center and the Children's Advocacy Center that didn't really get wrestled to the ground that I also want to make sure are discussed in committee.
I'll be happy to join the meeting. Yes.
Great. Thank you. And then let me just apologize. We've deleted item 49. On item 55, I asked that item 55 be heard with item 28, but I believe that both item 28 and 55 can go on consent. And the reason that was there was a mistake in the report that had a parcel on Clayton for a residential care facility. The staff has since let me know that's not accurate, but the rest of the reports are very clear. And 28 is our update on Measure A, and 55 is an item relative to FAF. Are there any concerns for my colleagues about that? Mike?
So, Madam Chair, you're not taking 55. You're leaving 55 now on consent?
And I'm adding 28
on consent?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
If my colleagues are okay with that. And then on item 59, I too really appreciate the work of the staff. Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Samitian, I know this was a direction from you. I mean, this was a project that came from you. I did want to ask the staff to continue to work with the community on what the final the scope will be. I think the best way to do that is actually get committee members on, to get it real. But I was a little concerned that the resolution is a little bit light, but I think that can get resolved through the process. I just wanted to mention that to my colleagues. And then there was one more item. I apologize. Let me just look at my notes real quick. think that's it. So let me read this back just so we're all clear, if that's okay. And then Mike, you check my work if anything sounds confusing. So we would be accepting the everything that was posted on consent with the exception of item 49, which will be deleted. Item 16 will be deleted. And that's the central fire application dissolution of districts.
No, ma'am. Item 17 is deleted. 16 is the one James said we need to hear.
Oh, I apologize. Item 17. Thank you. Thank you, for catching that. Item 17 would be deleted. And then I have put back onto consent item 55. We're adding 28 to consent. And we're adding item 11 to consent, with recognizing that we may get feedback from my colleagues before it's heard in committee. And I think that's everything. Did I get everything, Mike?
Did you do something with 52 or 59?
No, they're both on consent.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it. All right, so if that's clear to everybody, I'm going to give you all a moment to absorb that. I'm going to go to the public comments and then I will come back for board action.
First speaker is Jeff Ann Afton. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Aftan Murphy in regards to the Seneca Welcoming Center. The board has made the right decision to revise the contract from 4 to 1 year. Seneca has not produced any results in the past 3 months. Please stick to the original referral and assess Seneca at the end of a 1-year contract. Please do not extend before there are any proven results. Thank you.
Our next speaker is B. Beekman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, thank you. To speak on the item of the Stanford Police today, I know cities, campuses like UC Berkeley are also considering like how to reimagine their police. And it reminded me this item that, you know, across the whole Bay Area, different cities and communities are doing similar practices and then have variations on similar practices and, you know, how to address the future of policing. And I hope you can take heart in what may be too timid for yourselves when you see other cities practicing new policing ideas and even more importantly, COVID ideas, how to address funding issues in the time of COVID. When you see other cities being able to do things that you quite can't do, I hope you can take heart in that. And so good luck in how you can work on those efforts. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, everyone. Scott Largent. As far as the Seneca item that's on the consent calendar today, you know, I figure we could save Santa Clara County a ton of money. You don't want to hear me talk about not being able to see my kid. So why don't we just start fixing things right here? Why don't one of you, that's supposed to be a healing administrator, make a call, okay? Start figuring out why I can't see my kid, why other homeless people can't see their kids, why poor people are getting hosed on visitation. This is what Seneca's supposed to be handling. I should be able to ride the coattails on all this stuff, be a clean and sober father participating in my child's life. I'm sick of talking about this. Please make a phone call. One of your staff make a phone call. Hell, if Seneca's even on the phone right now, you're probably sick of me ragging on you people and filming out in front of your business there on First Street right now, making public statements. Figure it out, and then you don't have to hear from me anymore, okay? I just want to be in my kid's life, okay? I'm begging. My mental health is just out the shitter right now.
Our next speaker is Maggie Cocaine. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Maggie, you have unmuted yourself and you are welcome to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
I'm a resource parent in District 1, and I support the motion to place item 11 on this DSSC agenda. Despite the board's direction to have a 1-year welcome center contract in order to assess the effectiveness of Seneca, DFCS is now asking for 3 years, even though a location hasn't been secured over the last 3 months. DFCS fails to propose a plan to show exactly what they'll be doing and why they need 3 years. DFCS also fails to consider prevention, reunification, and exiting children from the system in their new program. The Social Worker Resource Parent Alliance has a plan. We ask the board to support the stakeholders and direct DFCS to work with the Alliance on a long-term solution that is in the best interest of the children. Thank you.
That concludes our public speakers.
Thank you. And I did get a ping from someone who reminded me that I also asked to put item 30 on consent. And for my colleagues, this was a transportation needs assessment report that I requested a number of years ago. And I keep trying to massage it so it's something that we can use, but I think we'll just accept it and figure out a next step. So 30, 28, and 55 are on consent, 49 and 17 are deleted. And then also, yeah, that's right. And there, I don't think there was anything else. So I need a motion.
Item 11, Madam Chair.
Item 11. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Joe. Thank you very much. Item 11 is on consent. Good. 11, 30, 28, 55, 49, and 17 are deleted. All right. So do I have a motion for the consent calendar with those changes?
So moved.
Motion from Supervisor Wasserman, a second from Supervisor Ellenberg. Oh, thank you, Supervisor Ellenberg. Thank you. I'm like waiting. All right. And then may I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Supervisor Ellenberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Semidian?
Aye.
Supervisor Cortese?
Aye.
Vice President Wasserman?
Yes.
President Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I apologize to my colleagues that that was a little clunky, but hopefully it'll make the rest of the day slightly smoother. So now we're going to item 8, which is a public hearing on the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for CDGB and Home. We will begin by asking if the administration wishes to provide a presentation at this time or any information that's in addition to the written materials. I don't hear anything from staff. So I'm going to assume that's a no.
I think Consuelo is going to talk about this, but we'll take questions if you have any questions.
Thank you. And colleagues, do any of my colleagues have questions on this item? Seeing none, I'm now going to open the public hearing. Let me see if there are any speakers from the public. And I see none, and that concludes the public testimony portion of the public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Seeing no other questions from my colleagues, I'd like to ask for a motion for item 8B to approve the draft and to approve the draft.
So moved.
We have a motion from Supervisor Wasserman, a second from Supervisor Ellenberg, and I'd like to request a roll call vote.
Supervisor Ellenberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Semidian?
Aye.
Supervisor Cortese?
Aye.
Vice President Wasserman?
Aye.
President Chavez?
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to now move to item 10. And item 10 for my colleagues is regarding inclusionary housing ordinance amendments and in lieu fees. And I will turn it over to Jack, are you the person who's presenting? Great. Thank you.
I'm actually just going to introduce the presenter. It's Valerie Negretti, and so I will do that. Good morning, President Chavez, board members, Jacqueline Anshano, Director of Planning and Development. Valerie Negretti will be presenting today. We have available, and Valerie is one of our senior planners. We have available, if you have any questions, Manira Santier, who is our principal planner, David Dozema from Kaiser Morrison Associates, Consuelo is available also from OSH, and Elizabeth and Ender, our special counsel, Ender's our special counsel, our lead deputy county counsel, Elizabeth Pianca, are also available if you have any questions. Valerie, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline, and good morning, members of the board. This item came before the board in April of 2020, where the board gave specific direction to move forward with the proposed inclusionary housing requirements for residential development of 3 or more units. At the same meeting, the board also gave direction to not include a fee for 1 to 2 units. Staff is presenting this ordinance for board consideration this morning. Inclusionary housing, as you know, is a tool to create affordable housing. The county adopted inclusionary housing regulations specifically for the Stanford Community Plan area in the first phase. They cover the first phase, I'm sorry. The amendments before you today would apply inclusionary housing regulations for residential development countywide. A future third phase would consist of impact fees for non-residential development in the unincorporated areas. As stated earlier, staff was directed to prepare inclusionary housing requirements for projects consisting of 3 or more units to generate housing for various income levels. The inclusionary requirements would mandate that at least 16% of new for sale or rental units be affordable for a duration of 55 years. Compliance options include that within Stanford, any fractional units could be banked for future residential development. For fractional units outside of Stanford Community Plan area, a developer would have an option to round up and construct the unit or pay an in lieu fee. For example, if 10 units are proposed, the inclusionary obligation would be 16% or 1.6 units. A developer may choose to build the 1 unit and pay 0.6 times the in lieu fee. This in lieu fee of $259,000 per affordable unit is based on the updated KMA Nexus studies. This amount is needed to subsidize the construction of 1 new affordable unit. Staff performed 2 community outreach meetings and informed the county's neighborhood associations, frequent applicants, affordable housing developers, Stanford University, and also posted the meeting information on the county's public website. To date, no substantial feedback has been received with the exception of now 2 comments of support. The ordinance amendments were also presented to the Planning Commission and the San Martin Planning Advisory Committee in August 2020, whom both have forwarded a favorable recommendation to the board. Staff has found the ordinance amendments to be consistent with the housing element goal of supplying affordable housing to all income levels. Therefore, staff recommends the board use the 2014 housing element negative declaration and CEQA exemption section 15061B3 for CEQA compliance. Staff also recommends the board adopt the zoning ordinance amendments and in lieu fee resolution for the proposed inclusionary housing requirements. This concludes staff's presentation, and the project team, as Jacqueline had mentioned a moment ago, is available for any questions.
Thank you very much. And let me just turn to my colleagues. Before I turn to my colleagues, let me go to the public. We'll take public comment and then I'll come. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see. Do my colleagues have any clarifying questions on this item? Seeing none, I will now go to the public and open the public hearing. Ask the clerk to call on public speakers.
And how much time should we allow?
What's normal for hearings? I don't know the answer to that. Can we do
That would be 2 minutes generally for hearings.
Okay, thank you.
Our first speaker is John Holton. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm actually here to speak out against the inclusionary housing proposal as written. I have 3 main points. One is the Board of Supervisors findings that were provided along with this show that in section C2 that the root of the problem is really excess commercial development. The unrestrained development has led to more jobs than housing, and this proposal does nothing to address that issue. So we're going to continue this race of building until the density is such that it's unlivable. Second, there's little evidence that just building more housing will get the result you desire. And it actually adds to some of the problems that you mentioned, like traffic. It's a vague trickle-down concept, and the means don't get you to the ends. If building more housing led to lower costs, places like Manhattan and Tokyo would be the most affordable in the world, and they're not. We need a better solution that puts the pain in the game where it belongs. The emphasis should be on commercial development that exacerbates the housing imbalance, whether that's a tax or a net new fee, a fee on net new commercial development, or some type of cap and trade. We need a better solution, and the one that's proposed doesn't get us where we need to be. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is B. Beekman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, Blair Beekman here. I'm from San Jose, and with pre-COVID 19 issues, there was a very nice pattern developing of how to better talk about low income and extremely low income, or very low income and extremely low income housing, and mixed income housing, especially interestingly. And with COVID striking this past summer, there was quite a to-do in San Jose city government circles with a general plan and how are they going to move forward at this time. I hope we're making really good efforts to address our issues pre-COVID-19, and it's been really interesting to me how we've been doing that. And I thank you for that. How can we get back to considering, very low income and extremely low income and mixed income, especially mixed income, as, kind of more everyday thinking and conversation and open dialogue again? I think that's a really important concept. I was at a Redwood City Council meeting yesterday. They want to introduce the ideas of equity in their housing, in the future of their housing, which I think is a remarkable statement to say. And that's why my earlier public comment was, when you look at other cities, look at what they're doing. And if they're doing something really well, I hope we can take pride from that and want to copy and emulate that and take strength from that, I guess. And so good luck on how you deal, 1.6 out of every 10. That's nice. Maybe it's 2.6 in a year or two, Good luck on how you work on these issues. Thank you.
Our next speaker.
I'm
Nancy.
sorry, I was muted. Our next speaker is Gloria. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good morning, President Chavez and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Gloria Ballard. I'm principal with MH Engineering located in Morgan Hill. I represent Ray Malik on a 3-lot tentative map. The lots are approximately 20 acres each, with a 372-acre open space parcel in Gilroy. The application is in process. Staff has requested additional information after the shelter in place was ordered. I am in the process of providing the additional information which was not previously required or requested but the shelter in place has created some difficulties. I understand if the county does not declare this application complete by January 1st, the project will be subject to the new ordinance. Briefly, the history on this project is we previously had an approved tentative map. When the tentative map needed an extension to complete the conditions to record the parcel map, a county misinterpretation made it necessary to file a new application. I am in that process. On behalf of the applicant, I am requesting that you consider the application for Malik has been filed, which it has, and is not subject to this ordinance. If this is not possible in your process right now, any assistance by the county to help in deeming this application complete by January 1st will be very much appreciated. Are there any questions of me?
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Robert Aguirre. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, it's Robert Aguirre. I want to speak in favor of anything that's going to help house unhoused people, whether it be any kind of tax or any kind of inclusionary clauses or anything like that. We have an extreme shortage of housing for extremely low income. And I truly believe that housing should be a right and not a commodity. And as long as we continue to commodify our housing, we're going to continue to be having these problems. And I think the move towards something like community land trusts or anything like that, where we are decommodifying properties so that people have an opportunity to be able to live here. Many of the people that are unhoused are people that help build this community and are being excluded either through disparity of income or through no fault of their own. Some people do make bad choices, but I mean, that happens to everybody. If you happen to buy a house that was in a fire zone or in a flood zone and you end up losing your home, well, you might want to blame those people for buying a home in such an area. But at the same time, we're running out of areas in which to build. And I think one of the things we need to do is increase density and allow more and more people of all incomes to be able to live together and not segregate people. We all have a real desire to try to protect ourselves in any way we can. And if that means building a structure underneath a bridge or along a creek or wherever you can, that's what you do when you have nothing else. And until this county and this country actually turns around and starts realizing what we're doing to our own people, and especially with the rents that are going to be coming due, the exacerbation of people getting evicted, we're going to see a lot more people living in the streets. We need.
Thank you. I wanted to go back and see if staff had any responses to any of the issues that were raised. Seeing none, I'm going to move on then to the board to see if there are any questions or comments from the board. I'm going to Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you. Through the chair to Jack, if I may. I've got a concern. We heard from one speaker, the projects that have not yet been deemed complete, or Rob, for you, not yet been deemed complete. I don't think that we technically consider those in the pipeline, yet from my perspective, they're here. It's not something like somebody sitting down at a kitchen table dreaming about doing something. They've actually initiated the process, incurred expenses, that kind of documents. I wondered if there might be some way so that those items that I would call in the pipeline, items previously submitted, that the new rules do not apply to. That just doesn't seem right, where somebody bought a piece of property, chose to develop it, hire whatever professionals to draw up plans, and then the rules change on them. I know that's how I feel about how a change of no gas in new construction is currently now. Through the chair, if Rob could reply to that, I'm looking for some sort of amnesty extension, something.
Yeah, I Supervisor Wasserman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Typically, and this happens a lot when regulations change and someone's applied, and typically the approach is to establish a pipeline. Normally for projects, there's kind of 3 benchmarks. One is if you're approved, that's further down the road after you've gone to a hearing. The second is deemed complete, and that's what's put in the ordinance today. And that's you've gone through your reviews and the application is settled. And that's typically where cities and counties have established a pipeline. I'm not sure to the extent we've ever established pipelines at the point reviews submitted. I think we have to look into that more. Typically it is when you're deemed complete. I guess I think we'd suggest to the board. So right now, and Manir and Valerie correct, I think the active date of the ordinance is in January. That does give folks at least 2 or 3 more months to get their projects complete. If the board would like to give a little more time, I think what the department would probably suggest is if the board wants to have the active date start a bit further back, and you could, if you want, go back to something like April or June. And it's just a more equitable starting date. You don't have to think about. So that could be an option for the board if you'd wanted to push back the active date, and then folks that are in the process could have more time to be deemed complete before that active date.
Yes, through the chair, if I may reply.
Please.
Thank you. Rob, thank you for that answer. Yes, that is something I'm desirous of doing. The general public would say if they considered buying a piece of property, looked at the rules, bought the property, hired an architect, hired an engineer, hired whatever, started drawing up plans, started submitting. We all know that takes a couple of years. And then all of a sudden there's different fees and costs that may not pencil out the same. That would be heartbreaking and not something you can just undo, because once escrow is closed, you own it. And anybody else buying it would be subject to the new rules, which have additional costs involved. And so the person would lose value. So yes, I would, Madam Chair, I'd like to throw out there that I think June 1st of 2021 would be the appropriate date to make this new rule applicable, so that anyone who's already in the process of dealing with our 7th floor in one manner or another, plans submitted, that type of thing, can be excluded for this new rule. And I'm sure either Rob or Jack can confirm that's certainly not a whole lot of people in the unincorporated area that would fall under that right now. So I think it's a pretty safe and not costly thing to do in any respect.
Mike, would you like to make that in the form of a motion that would include item 10B to adopt the resolution and approve CEQA with the different start date?
Yes, ma'am. I would do that, both of that, the approval, recommended, and the approval, as you just stated, with a start date of June 1st, 2021.
Great. And we have a, do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, I will be requesting a roll call vote from the clerk.
And for clarity, I believe it's 10B and 10C.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Ellenberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Simidian,
Aye.
Supervisor Cortese,
No.
Vice President Wasserman,
Yes.
President Chavez.
Yes. Yes, thank you. We're now going, thank you, staff. We're now going to move to item 12. This is food, restaurants, ag, and health access. And what I wanted to just do a time check with my colleagues that I would like us to break as close to 12:30 as possible. I'm going to ask for this presentation to go about 10 minutes, so it allows for public comment, but also any comments or questions from the board. So with that, I'm turning this item, I think, over. Sandia, to you?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Good morning, supervisors. I am Sandhya Hermon, Deputy Director at SSA, and I'll let my county colleagues and city colleagues introduce themselves. Frank?
Yes, I'm Frank Mata, and a project manager at the Social Services Agency.
Thank you. And from the city, we're lucky enough to have our city colleagues with us too. Angel Rios, I believe, is on.
Hello, everyone. Angel Rios, Deputy City Manager, City of San Jose. And with me here is...
Dolan.
Good morning. Dolan Beckel, Director of the Office of Civic Innovation, is my day job. For the last 7 months, I've been the Director of the EOC branch for food and distribution.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Frank, if you could move us to the next slide, please. Great. So with regard to dealing with food insecurity in Santa Clara County, we're really taking a two-pronged approach. One, there needs to be work done around the broader food ecosystem, and two, we need to respond to the immediate food insecurity that has resulted from the COVID crisis. For the broader food ecosystem work, we're happy to report that we're now very close to having the contract amendment signed with UCCE, and they will be the ones helping in leading the effort around strengthening the broader food ecosystem. Second, we're exploring the good food purchasing policy as outlined in the report. And we're trying to better understand current purchasing policies, vendor practices, and trying to align all of this with our own procurement process. Today's presentation is focused primarily on the COVID food response and providing the board with a transition update. So just to start out, I'd like to acknowledge the effort by the City of San Jose and all our CBOs in coordinating the disaster food response since the outset of the pandemic. Their efforts to scale up and pivot the emergency food distribution system has ensured the continued access to to food for our community because food insecurity has spiked during this time. The county team is led primarily by the Social Services Agency, and we're going to be taking on the county-wide food coordination. However, the city will still continue to play a major role, as we'll outline in future slides. The county team has really spent the last few months speaking with many partners, and we're trying to take a collaborative approach in dealing with the food crisis. We have meetings that have ranged from the governance pieces of the transition to the operational pieces. We had a large convening of around 35 CBO partners and the city in late September. And we touched on a variety of domains that came up in terms of needs, funding needs, communication needs, the need for volunteer recruitment, and we're planning to convene this group on a monthly basis. And for program specifics, I'll let Frank launch into those.
Thank you, Sandhya. These are the specific program areas that we've been discussing with the City of San Jose for coordination transition to the county, and we wanted to acknowledge that the City of San Jose had started putting together this response prior to state and federal direction or funding. So we as a region feel like this is a good solid foundation for us to build from. We wanted to call out that the school meals coordination is going to continue with the County Office of Ed as the lead, and the USDA waivers that were rescinded a little while ago are now back in place. Not to go through the slide, line by line, it's outlined in the report, but we did want to call out quite specifically that for the senior nutrition program, we have seen during a period of COVID a dramatic growth. We have over 1,400 new enrollees into the program and are facing at this rate of need for senior nutrition food, a budgetary shortfall that we are assessing, and we are planning to come back in November to you with some numbers and options on how we may be able to fill that gap. The other programs that are going to continue is the Great Plates Delivered program with the City of San Jose as its lead and coordinating city response. And another one is we want to mention that the safety net programs, which are the grocery pickup sites from that are coordinated by Second Harvest and nonprofits and food pantries and throughout the county, including community colleges and other locations, will also be continuing countywide. What's next for our next steps is that we will continue to work on the Food Initiative Work Plan with the UC extension agreement. We will start evaluating our food procurement process, deeper dive than what we had already started, to include implementation of the good food purchasing plan policy for report back to you. We are going to continue regular internal coordination of our food system work and hold monthly convenings with our stakeholders as we started. And we'll report back on the work plan in 2021, the work plan and many of the details of the larger ecosystem. But as it was mentioned earlier, we will have an interim report by November to address the immediate fiscal and other food needs that we may see emerge at this time. With that, I will leave it open for questions and comments, and I'm happy to have our Social Services Agency Director, Bob Minicucci, on the call, and Deputy County Executive Key Lee, the SEPA Director, Joe Zentik, and our City of San Jose representatives.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to go to public comment, and then I'll come back to the board for comments or questions.
And what should we give? Okay, wonderful. Our first speaker is B. Beekman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, thank you for this item. I learned a really nice thing, a few months ago, following the story of, farm workers in the Central Valley. They were not quite getting the health supplies they needed. They were not getting masks, hand sanitizers, and just overall health needs. And, that really came to light, I think, and made an important impact on people living here in the Bay Area. And just, it brought up the idea of basic rights, and basic health and human services rights, and that need to be respected. And not only respected, it just gives us, healthier food, basically. And, all those things needed to be considered. And I hope, and I think they're being considered now more. And, we're all going through a learning process with COVID-19. And that's one of the important lessons. I don't like having to go through the lessons because of COVID-19, but nonetheless, we're going through.
Our next speaker is Tracy Weatherby. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, I'm Tracy Weatherby, and I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Advocacy for Second Harvest of Silicon Valley. We're looking forward to continuing and deepening our partnership with county staff to ensure that our community has the nutrition it needs during this continuing crisis and future crises. And with our partners, Second Harvest has almost doubled the food we provide to the community, as well as doubling the people we're serving to over 500,000 people across Santa Clara County and San Mateo counties. We look forward to building a strong plan for our charitable food ecosystem that includes strong ties between government and our over 300 nonprofit and school partners to ensure that our community has the resources for food that it needs. Thank you for making food a priority in this county.
Our next speaker is Katie Ettman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Ettman, and I am the Food and Agriculture Senior Policy Associate SPUR. First, I want to thank you all for bringing forth this update, and I am excited to continue this partnership with you all as we build a strong regional food system. I would like to add that I'm excited that we are working towards implementation of the Good Food Purchasing Policy and would like to reiterate that this is a multi-stage process. And first, we need to do an assessment of what is currently being purchased so we know where we can grow from. In order to do that, we need to understand how big the purchasing budgets are of our largest purchasers in the county. And then we can apply values-based criteria that is vetted by experts so that the Santa Clara County can be a leader and join with other good food purchasing institutions around the country so that we can build a strong regional food system. Thank you for your leadership, and I look forward to continuing together.
Our next speaker is Robert Aguirre. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, Robert Aguirre. I'd like to thank all the people that are involved in the food distribution. I think it's something that's needed quite seriously. But also I would like to point out that I have found out that some of the encampments that have been had delivery of food are actually having people bring large numbers of cases of food and perishable food, prepared food, including cartons of milk, and they leave too much quantity at one location, expecting those people to distribute it to the rest of the people that are located anywhere near them. And what ends up happening is that food ends up going bad, ends up attracting vectors that come in and actually create a problem for those people. And I think whoever from the city is responsible for overseeing the distribution to the encampments needs to do a better job and figure out what's going on there. And let's get this thing straightened out.
Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you, everyone. Scott Largent. We need better places for actually preparing food like this. I am somebody that's on food assistance. I get about $200 a month, and it has to be stretched out properly. And I would pretty much utilize the county's microwaves down in your cafeteria, different churches, rec centers. I would utilize a hot plate. I would bring a can of food with me. I could stretch my $200 out to make my life easier. Per day, we have 3 encampment fires here in Santa Clara County. People are utilizing barbecues and fire pits and kind of using a medieval cooking process just to do simple things. We could fix that. We could put things in place out in front of our county building, even a remote site down near Spring Street, downtown San Jose. You know, we could go all the way across town over near Monterey Highway. We could give people the ability to prepare the food that they get dropped off, they use food stamps for, and we could stop all these fires. So, thank you.
Thank you. Those are all of our public speakers. I'll go back and see if there are any questions from my colleagues. I don't see any. I'm going to just make a couple of broad requests, and one is very much to thank our partners in the city of San Jose for, taking on the lead, the charge here. And just a couple of requests that I want to make. One is that I would be very interested in the board getting off agenda just the RFP timelines and the costs of RFPs that are in process, because I know that's going to be a little clunky as we work on this transition. And then the second is that I know we've had this really a roundtable of collaborative partners, and really appreciate that we're going to keep that roundtable in place. One of the things that I'm really interested in understanding is what options for resources for the different areas of food are available. And what I mean specifically by that is that the schools and Second Harvest, they have their own rules around how many meals, who has access to them, and some of that has to do with federal law and waivers and all that. And I think the board needs to very much understand the the financial strengths and opportunities of each of our partners, because I will just say this to my colleagues, that one of my concerns is that that we're going to continue to see a high level of food need over the next 6 months. I don't think this ends at Christmas or there's some magical time when people aren't going to need food. So really understanding how all of this is stacked up is going to be critical. And then lastly, I know that both Supervisor Simitian and I put in a referral that's really looking at our food systems overall. And I just want to better understand the connection between that body of work and this body of work. And again, that may be a public meeting, maybe it's Children's Family Seniors Committee, I don't know, or maybe it's a document of writing. But I think while we have all these really educated people about the systems, that's going to be real critical for us to understand. And I apologize, one last thing. From a funding perspective, we have a lot of partners, especially small partners, that have been assisting us with food, making food and distributing food. And I'm also just interested in and you'd given this to us a while ago. I did not see it in this packet. In fact, maybe I'll just check to make sure I'm right. That I am interested in the, never mind. I think I have it. I was looking at the contract lengths and who'd been funded and what the need is going to be, because again, I think we're going into budget again in November, and I'm a little nervous that we don't understand the impacts. And I know we're going to be partnering with all the cities, but I want to understand what the nut for the county is going to be. Thank you for that. Supervisor Simitian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me just check that I'm coming through loud and clear. I've been having some microphone challenges this morning.
You're good.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask through the chair, Dr. Smith, to reconfirm that staff is working on the issue of senior meals, a particular slice of this challenge, and the fact that demand for senior meals through our established partnerships has gone up. That has cost implications. I'm told that that's about $3.3 million this fiscal year. I just want to make sure that we're not going to be turning people away from those senior meal programs or cutting off the programs prematurely before the end of the year. Dr. Smith, through the chair.
Yes, you're correct. We're going to continue the programs and fund them because obviously senior meals are critical to begin with, but particularly during COVID, they're even more critical. So the housing and support team is on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Those are all our questions. I'll ask, so let me say thank you to all of you for being here. Really appreciate your work. I know you guys are digging in, and we're going to ask for a roll call vote to receive the report.
To receive? Yep.
Yeah, and also because I added some next steps. So could we have a motion from Supervisor Wasserman, a second from?
Second.
From Supervisor Ellenberg, and we'll now take a roll call vote.
Supervisor Ellenberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Simitian?
Aye.
Supervisor Cortese?
Aye.
Vice President Wasserman?
Aye.
President Chavez?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you to the staff and all of our nonprofit partners who've just been doing an amazing job. Thank you. We can go to item 20, if that's okay with my colleagues. We're going to take a break at 12:30, as close to 12:30 as we can. And item 20 is a referral asking that we include in our November budget funding for the African American tutoring programs, the Building Your Own Kids Academy and Destiny Academy, to provide culturally sensitive services to the African ancestry children and TK through 12th grade. The county funded both of these programs, but the contract ended in August of 31, and maintaining these programs to support families of African American ancestry, particularly through the pandemic, is of high interest to me. I recognize this would be going to the budget process. Supervisor Ellenberg?
Thank you. Thank you, President Chavez, for bringing this forward. I think that it is particularly critical right now that we are thinking about students who are potentially the most underserved or struggling the most with distance learning. The two organizations that you mentioned are doing good work. I want to add a third because they are also really focused on developing these in-person safe learning pods and doing some significant work that I think has the potential to be scaled. And that's the Bay Area Tutoring Association. They've created a specific Black Lives Matter COVID-19 tutoring program to support low-income 7th graders and their parents during the pandemic and distance learning. So if you would be open to it and are making a motion, I would like to ask you to include options for funding the Bay Area Tutoring Association's program for 2 cohorts of students at a cost of $60,000 to be considered with the November budget.
I think that's a great idea. I really appreciate you raising it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you can, I'll make that motion with that included. And Susan, can I ask for a second?
Second, thank you.
Thank you. And if I could go to a roll call vote?
Supervisor Ellenberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Semidion,
Aye.
Supervisor Cortese,
Aye.
Vice President Wasserman,
Aye.
President Chavez.
Yes, thank you. We'll now go to item 21. And this, Susan, this is your referral.
Thank you. Just pulling it up. Having a tech freeze always. Okay. So thank you again, Supervisor Chavez and the rest of the board for your consideration today. I also want to thank the LTSS committee for their significant work on this issue over the years, as I believe it really emphasizes the value of the county taking a collaborative and problem-solving approach to assisting this constituency. They've been working with my office over the past couple of months to help us get this referral right, as well as to bring and keep together all of the relevant partners, including Anthem Blue Cross and the Santa Clara County Family Health Plan. This referral seeks to clarify the eligibility for Measure A funded permanent supportive housing of otherwise unhoused community members who are exiting or are ready to be exited from our county's skilled nursing facilities. Unhoused residents are currently eligible for placement in Measure A funded projects. This referral does not seek to change that. Measure A projects are and should certainly continue to be designated for Measure A qualified county residents. The intent of this referral is to direct administration to prioritize current talks between LTSS, Long-Term Services and Supports, the Office of Supportive Housing, and the Continuum of Care Board to complete assessment revisions in a timely manner. And I understand that the preference may be to make all necessary assessment revisions at one time, perhaps in the future, and certainly share our administration's general caution with regard to assessment reviews. But there is a real urgent need here to clearly define the status of community members who are ready to be charged from SNFs and will otherwise become or return to a state of being unhoused if we don't include them in our assessment when we are qualifying people for placement in a Measure A funded project. And what's more, we have the appropriate partners in place, as well as willingness to fund and find avenues to extend that funding. So this is not in any way a financial ask. The Continuum of Care Board identified these concerns in August during their board meeting, and I'm confident that our administration can work with LTSS to make the appropriate changes to our assessment model that will alleviate the Care Board's concern. What I'm trying to avoid here is another lost opportunity, as appears to have been the case in the Lee Avenue measure project in my district, if continuing delay in clarifying the assessment tool results in our partners no longer being in a position to provide the funding that they've outlined and have to return basically to square one. The situation is frankly that the partners have been waiting for 2 years to use their funding, and it certainly wouldn't be unreasonable of them for at any time to consider other options for those funds. If we can focus on our assessment revision now, we can assure that the funds will be available and that SNF skilled nursing facilities will be able to safely discharge current patients make beds available for new patients, and ensure a soft landing for SNF residents otherwise unhoused who are exiting services. Administration already identified this as an issue during their LTSS facilities gap analysis work group in-person meeting in October. I want us to preserve funding and serve more people wherever possible. And I believe this referral does that. And I am happy to answer questions and hope that I will earn your support on this referral today.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the public, and then Susan, I'll come back to you for a motion.
Okay, thank you.
And then questions and comments from our colleagues.
Our first speaker is Robert Aguirre. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Robert Aguirre. Thank you, Supervisor Ellenberg, for bringing this forward. This is a thing that I have been concerned about for quite some time. We have a lot of people that are either in some kind of respite or program where they're trying to find permanent housing for themselves, or even just a place to be able to recover. And it's extremely difficult. I have a friend of mine that actually died in the streets because he was waiting for a place, a bed or someplace so he could recover from heart surgery because of his congestive heart failure. He ended up dying in the streets because he didn't have a safe place to go, and they refused to operate on him until he had such a place. And there's a number of people that are waiting to try to find out what's going on. There's very little communication with the population of people that are being affected by this. And I know that the county's doing the best that they can, whatever they can, but it's just not good enough. And the communication needs to improve.
Our next speaker is Robert Brownstein. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
The county's doing the best that they can, whatever they can, but
Good morning,
it's not good enough.
members
And
of
the
the board.
communication needs to improve.
Our next speaker is Robert Brownstein.
I'm sorry. Could you hold just for a moment, Bob? We are having a technical difficulty.
We'll start when you begin speaking.
So hold on 1 second.
Can, whatever they can, but
Good morning.
Bob,
Yeah, we're
I'm
hearing the
sorry.
recording.
Yeah,
On the delay.
you could just hold on 1 moment. Staff, let us know when you're ready.
We are ready.
All right, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I want to
hold on
speak in,
1 moment. Actually, Bob, it's still not working. Can I ask the clerk to take another minute to fix that?
It actually appears to be in Robert Brownstein's background. So if he could move to another location to comment, I think that would be helpful.
All right, Bob, you want to try again? Bob?
can you hear me now?
Yes. All right, Bob, you want to try again?
Yes. I want to speak strongly in support of Supervisor Ellenberg's recommendations.
You might be recording.
Yeah. Bob, are you recording on accident?
Negative. No. Can you hear me now? I can hear you.
All right, Bob, you want to try again?
Yes.
Bob,
okay.
turn off your computer or whatever you're listening to the meeting on, and then just talk.
Should we move on to B. Beekman and then come back to Robert?
Let's try Bob one more time and then we can do that. Bob, you want to unmute yourself and try again?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to speak in support of Supervisor Ellenberg's recommendations.
To B. Beekman and then come back
You know what, Bob? We can't get you for some reason. I apologize. We're going to have to go to the next speaker. All right.
Our next speaker is B. Beekman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, B. Beekman here. Sorry, we couldn't hear Mr. Brownstein speak at this time. I'm assuming this is about the police recommendation items. If I'm incorrect, you can correct me now, I think.
This is not.
Oh, it isn't. Okay. Well, I appreciated the
Sorry,
words of
President
Robert.
Thomas.
I appreciated the words of Robert Aguirre and talking about homeless issues and housing. If it's possible, yeah, I don't quite have enough savvy on this, enough knowledge on this subject. So I guess I will just wait for Mr. Bernstein to speak again on this subject. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Largent. I kind of stand side by side with Robert and a lot of the advocates that we just need more places for people to go right now. Well, that's fine. Well, actually, my employer wants to sit side by side and listen to me talk. So what I'm hoping is that we just start addressing what's going on downtown. And you guys hear me over and over and over again. Every single business has somebody living out in front of there that has a meth addiction or a mental health issue. And once they're put into the system, 6 hours later, they're right back out. And I'm documenting it, but these people just need care. They need adequate care. No one's going to go downtown. Downtown is now reopened. It's a ghost town. I wouldn't want to explain to my kid what that person's doing on the side of the road. And it's shocking down there, but you guys don't walk down there and you don't experience it. Nobody goes down there anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to my colleagues for action, and Supervisor Ellenberg, I believe you had a motion.
Yes.
All right. I know it's been a while. Okay.
It has been a while.
So we have a motion.
I move that we approve this request to direct communication between the described groups in the referral.
Thank you. And as we have a motion and a second from me, unless Mike, okay, so a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
Supervisor Ellenberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Simidian?
Aye.
Supervisor Cortese?
Aye.
Vice President Wasserman?
Aye.
President Chavez?
Yes. And that passes
very much.
unanimously. Thank you. I wanted to go to item 22. I'm not sure we could do that in 5 minutes. I don't know if there's if there are any speakers for item 22. Ms. Ellenberg, do you want to take a crack at this one?
Sure, I think it could be very quickly, because at the August 25th board meeting, all of us approved my referral to expand the scope of OCLEM committee. And it was at that meeting that I shared my intention to refer to the committee the 22 community prescribed public safety referrals for review. And I want to thank Laura Trice and Michael Giannacco for their work to amend the ordinance language in a way that maintains the purpose and mission of the committee while expanding its scope to encompass a broader definition of public safety that goes beyond law enforcement and correctional facilities. So as you're all aware, a very quick review. In July, I hosted 3 community conversations, which engaged nearly 500 residents, 18 community organizations, and the County Police Chiefs Association around policies and recommendations that would promote greater justice and equity, both within and external to our public safety systems. These 22 recommendations were compiled from those conversations, categorizing input by community members and stakeholders and reflecting their visions. In reviewing these recommendations, the committee would be provided with opportunities to collaborate with existing county commissions and departments outside of what is traditionally considered public safety, allowing for more inclusive policy recommendations. I want to quickly appreciate my colleagues' support of this work, particularly Supervisor Simidian and Supervisor Chavez, who oversaw the creation of the OCLEM committee, I'll call it 1.0. Approval of this item would allow the committee to review those community recommendations, furthering their voice and providing the board with a recommendation to act on the will of the community. Ultimately, the committee would report back to the board with their analysis of which recommendations are within the purview of county government, are implementable, and can be incorporated into our next year's fiscal budget. And my hope is that we'll take it from there and implement the policies that our community members tell us will make them feel safer in Santa Clara County.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the public comment and then I'll come back to the board.
First speaker is B. Beekman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you will have 1 minute to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, thank you. I know what I wanted to say for the last item. If applicable, I hope AB 3088, we can all think about how it can be expanded if it's applicable to the last item. For this item, I spoke in the beginning the importance of housing, that perhaps as more, overall COVID-19 issues that perhaps have more of a precedence over policing issues. I framed that wrong. They're pretty equal at this time. And Supervisor Ellenberg had a really nice way to describe, how can policing, connect to just other parts of the community. My ideas of mixed income housing is directly related to better community practices. And it's really important, meaningful work that needs to be really discussed about its future. And thank you for your efforts and what you're going to be working on. And thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to my colleagues for discussion. I'll go to Supervisor Simidian. Supervisor Simidian, we can't hear you, but I see your hand is up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask County Counsel, Mr. Williams, whether or not we have an agreement yet between our OCLAM monitor, the OIR group, and the Sheriff's Department, since the ability of our monitor to do the work depends on access to the information. Through the chair, Mr. Williams.
We do not yet. We just got some more comments back from the Sheriff's Office just, I think, yesterday afternoon. And we will be working to provide a more comprehensive update to the board soon.
Mr. Williams, my recollection is that the OIR group came to the county, or at least started having conversations with us back in February. Am I correct?
Yes, I think their work plan period began maybe in May 1st, but yes, they started under contract and began the pre-work before then.
All right, I'll just point out that that's 8 months and still no agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Cortese?
Thank you. Just a question for Supervisor Ellenberg on this. I appreciate the recommendations and the continuing work that it looks like will be done on them by the community committee and so forth. I think if mine are numbered right, and they might not be, but the third item under crisis response on my notes, which is just essentially to analyze 911 calls and create alternative dispatch for people in crisis, as opposed to crimes, I guess, and so forth. Can you talk about that a little bit more, just in terms of your intent? And I'll telegraph, since it's certainly not intended to be a quiz or a riddle or anything like that, that something I mentioned here before in these meetings, and something I had a long discussion with NAMI about recently, and I've certainly talked to folks like David Bonetta at Momentum and others about this, that the way we're constituted right now in terms of mobile crisis intervention is response. Mobile crisis response is really not intervention per se. It's a stand back kind of, hey, if everything's under control and the person is willing to come outside and talk, then we'll see what we can do. That's my take, and I apologize if I'm insulting anyone in behavioral health for oversimplifying that. But I say that only to try to I'm purposely trying to exaggerate a little bit or punctuate the point that I don't see what we do now as actual intervention, which then seems to me to leave intervention still almost fully in the hands of badges and guns. Police, law enforcement response is still stuck with sort of doing that intervention that often becomes confrontation, as we all know. So my wish is that be looked at, but I wanted to hear, that may already be your intention. I just wanted to ask that you flesh that out with me a little bit.
Sure, thank you. And I think you raise a really critical point. And intervention, response is really kind of the last resort. Intervention is better than just response, and prevention is the very best. And I completely agree with you that we need a much more holistic approach, and one that starts much earlier and isn't only responsive. I'm not suggesting at all that these 22 are the right recommendations, and certainly not the only recommendations. What I'm trying to be really careful about is reflecting what the community input was, and then asking for this new committee to vet those and to come back to us with their suggestions, again, as to what is actionable, what can be put into our budget, where do we have purview. But I think the point that you're raising is so critical and needs to be not even necessarily delegated to that committee, although certainly they could talk about it and consider it. I think that is one of the priorities, and I'm happy to hear from Sherry, if she's on or later today, that is one of the things that they are talking about, is how do we intervene earlier so that we don't even get to the need for response, and how do we change the system so that the response, when it needs to be made, can be made by people that are skilled, maybe even ideally have pre-existing relationships with the folks that are in crisis, and really to shift the model. I think you're exactly right that it has to be a different paradigm. It's not, we can't just try to substitute one tool for another. And I think it's critical work.
Yeah, and I'm just asking, and maybe just by way of my comments, if they could just be sort of incorporated.
Absolutely.
By reference for further consideration. It's not a friendly amendment or anything, but I just would like this deeper dive to occur. This body of work may come back after I'm no longer on the board, but all the more reason I would just really feel strongly that, if the pre-intervention you're discussing doesn't work, which is often the case, that's a medical reality. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden there's a response call. This is right. What item 3 is really talking about. This, 911 call happens, that full history of intervention, that there's continuity, and that intervention, even at the point of response, is the preferred alternative rather than law enforcement confrontation, and that whatever restrictions that exist, and I agree with you, Sherry could probably explain what are currently the restrictions that our clinicians feel that they're under. But it's clear, very clear to me that our clinicians, our responders on the behavioral health side feel like they're limited into how far they can go during an actual response. And I think I'm trying to, again, I have no idea if this is like a 5-0 sentiment of the board, a unanimous sentiment, but I just feel like if it's the board's desire that those limitations be relaxed as much as possible or removed as much as possible, so that clinicians can be the first responders as often as possible in an interventionist kind of fashion, then I think we really need to look at what's holding that up now, because obviously that doesn't happen now. And I think it's more than just not having enough people or not having enough trained people, all important. Those are important too. It's about once they get there, what is their charge, and what is it that we can do legally, through county counsel's office, through change of policy, through board directives, through whatever, collaboration with law enforcement to make sure that, again, the preferred strategy is to maximize the intervention side rather than the confrontation side. So I'll leave it there. That's sort of the brain
I
dump of
wholly
comments
agree
I
with
just
you.
wanted to have on the record.
Yeah, I wholly agree with you. I'm happy to incorporate your comments into my referral. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you
So
very
we're gonna
much.
we have a motion from Supervisor Ellenberg and a second from, did we have a second yet? We have a motion from Supervisor Ellenberg, a second from Supervisor Cortese. Can you second the motion?
Yes.
Great. We have a motion and a second. I just wanted to add one thing that that I wanted to say this to my colleagues is I would like us to begin the nomination process relatively quickly. And I'm not sure who the best person is to do this, but I'd like us to be able to start making nominations now so that we can start approving folks in November. Each of us get one nomination, and I'm just nervous that if it keeps going too long without us doing that. So I'm saying that's a plea to staff to get that moving. All right, we have a motion and a second. May I ask for a roll call vote?
Supervisor Ellenberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Semidian,
Yes.
Supervisor Cortese,
Aye.
Vice President Wasserman,
Yes.
President Chavez.
Yes. Thank you. And that passes unanimously. We are now going to recess. We will be back at 1 o'clock. When we come back at 1, we will begin with item 13, and I will outline the process then. So see you all back at 1 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, is anybody there?